Ben Stanley, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I don't think we have anyone else here virtually or remotely. We welcome everybody to the Board of Commission meeting today. And we will begin, as we do with all our meetings, with a prayer reading or thought from someone that could offer in the public, after which we'd ask a volunteer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I think we have someone for the prayer. Is there someone here who could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Jim, thank you. Linda?
Thank you very much. As we come near Thanksgiving, John F. Kennedy said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. Let's pray together. Our dear Father in heaven, we are so grateful to be able to do this. In many countries, this isn't allowed. And we just have so many blessings that we don't even recognize every day, but we're safe, we're warm enough, we've had something to eat. So many things that many, many other people on this planet do not have. And we pray today as we go about the business of running the county that your Spirit will be here, that you will give us wisdom, that you will also help us to be nice to each other, because we're all in this together, Father, as you know. And we just are so grateful to have Thanksgiving coming, Father. And we want to thank you for this chance to be together. And we pray so gratefully, Father. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Will the audience please rise and repeat the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you for that. Thanksgiving is an almost all but forgotten holiday. It commemorates the gathering of the Pilgrims and the Native Americans to celebrate the fact they lived through the winter. We're able to celebrate the bounty of the following fall. But half of those that arrived from Europe died during that first winter because there wasn't enough food or hypothermia. So it's quite an occasion. So thank you both, Linda and Tim, for that. We will go through this agenda as we do others. The first item is consent item agenda. So we will go through. That storm.
Wait for the train to go by.
Wait for that train to go by. Anyone getting on? No? Okay. So we'll go through the regular agenda list, and then the items that we don't have any conversation or discussion on, we'll go ahead and move that to consent. And then from there, we'll go to the work session. So beginning in the regular agenda item listed 1 through 10, are there any things that we want to hold? I think 7, I think, Amelia, you want to hold that one?
We can. I think, Bill, did you get your questions answered?
Yeah, let's hold 7.
Hold
Okay.
7? Okay. And the others in 1 through 10?
8 and 9.
8 and 9, hold that. Is that a hold or a table? Hold. Okay. 11 through 20.
We need to strike number 12, right? It's like a duplication.
Okay. Thank you. So we're striking 12. Did we want to table 16 for a close, or are we good to move forward with that?
I think Ben Vanoy requests you table 16 and have a closed session to
Okay.
discuss that matter.
Okay.
Okay. 18 is set a date, time, location for a public hearing to consider reorganizing the Soldier Summit Special Service District as a local district for December 21, 22.
We need to set a time on that. Maybe there's just to say 2 p.m.
Would that be 2 o'clock or would that be at 10 o'clock?
That'd be great.
10 or 2?
Let's say 2 p.m. because that's when our commission meeting is. No, do we, I don't show that we have a commission meeting that day. I don't think we do. I think it would either need to be maybe we do. Oh, no, we do. Sorry.
I think it's
2
2
o'clock?
o'clock?
So let's put that for 2 o'clock.
Set for 2 o'clock. Okay. 18. Okay, 21 through
Sorry, number 20. We need to hold.
hold
number
20.
Commissioner, just go back to 18, so you're not planning to hold it, you're just gonna, you're picking the date of December 21st, 2022 at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Thank you.
21 through 30.
I have none.
On 22 and 23, I just want to recognize that Deputy America Wilcox has served the county for 16 years, so this is part of her retirement. So I want to say thank you to her for this.
Absolutely.
Okay. 31 through 40.
Number 34 and number 37
Okay.
and number 39 and 40.
That covered the ones I had.
Earlier, there was talk that we might want to strike a portion of what's in 37 or the entire 37. The whole thing or just that one item? Okay. Then 41 through 46. I think we need to hold 41 to see if there's any additional comments on that. And then 42, we can talk through that one.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to hold 42.
41 and 42. And then 47, 48, 49, I understand to be stricken. With 50, we need to hold for a closed session. Is that still true?
That's all I have.
Okay.
You just have 50?
Just litigation, yes.
And there's no HR.
Look at you.
Trying to get you done by 4.
Good luck.
Yes, and that's the other thing. We are going to try to constrain ourselves to be finished at 4 because we have the Board of Canvassers that's supposed to begin at 4. So we will go through this as quickly as possible. So, Harleen, could you review then what we have put into consent, what we've done with this agenda?
Okay, hopefully I have this correct. Hold 7, hold 8, hold 9, strike 12, table 16, continue 18 for December 21st, 2022 at 2 o'clock.
We're not continuing that
You're
one.
not continuing, we're just setting that.
Oh, setting it. Okay.
Thank you.
Hold 20. Hold 34. Hold 37. Hold 39, 40, and 41. Hold 42. And as for the closed meetings, strike 47, 48, 49, and hold 50.
Okay. Thank you, Harleen. All right, so we finished the consent item. Now we're into the work session. Ben?
Thank you, Commissioners. Ben Vanoy, County Attorney's Office. I know we've discussed this previously, and I emailed you a copy of this proposed ordinance, so this is just a hard copy for today's discussion purposes. I won't go into much context. As you know, the state law requires we establish this criminal justice coordinating council. The goal of the council is to address the criminal justice system and the various issues. Those objectives are stated on the second page at the bottom, 7.13.030. That is verbatim from state law. So that discusses kind of the overall why we have this. Each county is required before the end of this year to establish this council. This proposed ordinance would establish that council and satisfy that state law. A few questions as we go through this that we wanted to bring before the commission to get your input. I'm just going to go through a few things, and if you have questions at any point, please stop me and let me know. Jumping right into 7.13.02, the establishment. Part B, it discusses the representatives from different organizations and entities throughout the county and representatives that will be on the council. Some of these entities or these groups, for example, on number 3, a chief of police from a city in Utah County. Number 6, a district court judge. Number 7, a justice court judge. Number 8, an APNP representative. These are entities that we don't have control over. So the question for the commission is, how do we want to have these people selected or appointed? The statute is silent on how we approach this. We could
Also,
put in here
number
that the
10.
commissioners decide who is on there.
Also, number 10, we don't have
Thank
control
you.
over
I
a
was going to address
victim.
that one specifically.
Okay.
Thank you. One recommendation, one thought that we had, and it would be the recommendation of our office, is to let these groups self-select. We present this to each group and say, this is a state law. Please provide a representative from your organization. So there's some ways we can word this to make it so these groups self-select, or the commission can approve these recommendations, much like other boards that get appointed. The statute's silent, so there's some flexibility. So I need some input from the body
So,
here.
for example, you're thinking with a chief of police, for example, we would maybe ask the Chiefs Association
Correct.
to talk amongst themselves.
Is that the name of the organization, Sheriff, that you gather together with the chiefs? Okay. The law enforcement executives, exactly. It was to be proposed, presented to them, and say, hey, please provide a representative. However they want to do that, that's great. Whether it's a volunteer or whether it's a vote, however they want to do that, then great. For example, the district court judges, there's a presiding judge. Maybe it's as assigned by the presiding judge. We can, dictate how that's done, but we don't have to. We could let that be up to each of those groups.
So I like that, either self-select or maybe we solicit those that are interested. Because what we don't want is we don't want individuals on here that don't want to be there, and I think that the flaw or the weakness in this is on the judge level. We want them to want to be there, right. And so if we were to say to the district court judges out there who would like to be a part of this, and they say, yeah, I'd like to be a part of it, I think that's a higher form than maybe even an assignment from another judge or something. Because it used to be that the judges were the ones that were driving this council before, and now it's turning to where the law says that the commission has to be the chair.
Right.
And I think that could cause some ripple effects, especially down at the judge level. So
Sure.
I would love it if they said there's 3 or 4 of them that says I'd love to be a part of it.
Yeah.
That way they're there.
I think that also gives us the flexibility if we decide to combine with Wasatch County, that then we're not trying to appoint someone from their county, right? We allow them to self-select.
And I have a provision down there to address kind of a multi-county thing. We'll get to that, and try to keep this brief, given
Yeah, I
the
think
time
that's a good way to
constraints.
do it. Reach out to those organizations and ask
Okay.
them.
Specifically with number 10, an individual who is a crime victim or a victim advocate. That one's a little hard to self-select, right? And so the thought is, in talking with the Chief Deputy Sandy Johnson from my office, there is a victim rights committee here in Utah County established by law in the 4th District Court that meets regularly, that discusses victims' rights issues. That is a potential group where we could solicit a representative for this council. We could get input from every police agency has a victim advocate or a victim rights coordinator. We could solicit or ask for volunteers from these agencies. We need some direction from the commission to say, well, how should this slot be filled? I don't know if there's any thoughts on that one.
I
No,
think the idea of the council.
Yeah, I think that'd be good to go with that committee if possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll reach out to them. Going down page 3, this talks about we had to establish this group and give them some structure. And so the recommended term length was 3 years. That was kind of arbitrary. It could be 2, it could be 17. Given it 3 years was consistent with some of the other boards we have, for example, the Board of Health. So I don't know if the commission has any opinion or input on how long these individuals serve. And they can serve as many terms as they want, as long as they still qualify under those in those categories.
I have no objection to 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm open.
Going down to the last page, Commissioner, you brought up the multi-county and inviting, on the last page there, 7.13.04, it talks about having a multi-county council. That is allowed under the statute. And so the thought is that the commission can invite other counties, and those counties have to formally join via a resolution. So if that's an okay procedural setup to accomplish that, then we can move forward with that. If there's no questions or thoughts on that. Part B on that talks about the composition of a board and a multi-county council. The statute's silent on this. We could have one of each from each county. Let's say we have 2 counties. We could have both sheriffs, both commissioners, both county attorneys. We don't have to. So the thought is that the council can create their own bylaws to determine how many individuals, representatives from the other counties they want on the board.
Should we, under B, should it say the council shall include at least? Because if it says it shall include and it says one chief of police with, you know what I mean? Like that gives us
Sure.
what we shall. And so to say shall include at least.
Well, and the thought was that Utah counties would fill all of those. At least there'd be a Utah County individual from each one of these.
Correct.
We don't have to do that. It
Right.
could alternate.
But just
It's
the way
up
it
to you.
reads, it shall is such a strong word in legalese
Yes.
that unless we give it variability, it would almost be, it shall include one sheriff, but then it doesn't say that there could be a second.
Right, and that's why I need input from the commission here.
Yeah, so I would put shall include at least. Also, like Commissioner Lee said, what if we have 2 judges that would really like to be involved? I mean, I don't see that as a bad thing. I can't imagine that a judge would be able to come to every single meeting. So maybe having, if there's 2 that really want to, we could decide that.
Okay.
That
So
gives us some flexibility.
in theory, we could have a Utah County Council and a Wasatch County Council, kind of a shadow council. They fill both spots and they're on the same council addressing the same goals, but we could have double the council in theory.
In theory.
Yeah. And really this puts it up to the council to decide how they do that. This says the council will decide this question.
Yeah.
We could take that out of your hands and put it into the council's hands, or this body could determine, no, we only want one from each or each category, however you want to do it.
The one thing that I think we talked about when this came up in our multiple meetings is that, and you guys see it written throughout this is a Utah County council with others that would join.
Right.
The fear is that it somehow morphs into not a Utah County dominant council, which somehow I think would be advantageous for us to keep it dominant. I mean, I see it in here where it says one Utah County commissioner who shall serve as the chair of the council. And so you have that in there. I'm just worrying, once you get into a council, though, can they change all that, or does this stay in place?
No, this ordinance can only be changed by this group.
So the
there would
ones
be
that are
value
in there
having-
have to stay in there.
Yes, there could be value in having this group and Utah County steer that council. Since it's our council, we want some ownership over it. So if the commission is open to the idea of letting the council to decide how many members from other counties fill those slots, then we can do that. If this body wants to decide, no, we want one from each category, from each other county, you have a double council, we could do that. I need your input on what you would like to see.
I would recommend that they can propose to it, but that since it is a Utah County council, that it does come back to the commission.
Okay.
Make it too large and then be unyieldy. Have you heard anything from the other sheriffs, Sheriff Smith, on this? Their interest in joining Utah County? Or any of their chiefs of police? Have you heard anything from another county sheriff or chief of police in that county if they want to be part of Utah counties?
I have not, and I don't mind the idea of including other, but I kind of track with Commissioner Lee that if it's Utah County's council, then it be that, and if they want to be part of it, then absolutely they can be part of it. But it is Utah County's council, so if they wanted control over the council, do your own.
Okay. My concern, as I mentioned, if it gets too large, we won't get anything done.
Sure.
I think part of their concern was just that we share the 4th District Court, and so we're already going to have a judge, we're already going to have a victim's advocate, we're already going to have a lot of those things.
And Wasatch Behavioral Health.
And Wasatch Behavioral Health covers
We
both.
already
They do.
Right, so we already
There's
have-
the overlap. You're right.
There's enough overlap that they wanted to have a combined council for the sake of efficiency, which I don't see a problem with. But once again, we could maintain that a Utah County commissioner chairs the group, but then they have the ability to have representation on the group instead of having to have 2 separate councils. That would also stretch thin those other organizations, Wasatch Behavioral Health, the 4th District Court, et cetera.
Right. Okay. So I can word this in a way that allows the commissioners to kind of decide how many representatives from other counties are on the council. Does that sound, so it keeps you in the driver's seat? Okay. They can propose it and then you guys get to make the final say. Okay. Well, that was the only question, the last question that we had on this. I think we're very close. And like I said, we need to pass this before the end of the year. So I'll rework this and work with you each individually to get that done before the end of the year.
So Ben, we need to pass this for the end of the year, and that creates it.
Correct.
But to fill it
We have till
can
July.
take some time till July, right?
That's right.
That's how I
where
read it.
the funding
End of June.
strings are attached. That's
End
right.
of
The
June, right?
end of June, we have to fill it in order to get the funding. And then by every November, the council has to present or propose a plan to the state commission on their objectives.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. So now we finished work session. We'll now go into our regular agenda. Item number 7, approve and authorize the signing of a resolution in support of the Growth and Prosperity Compact of Utah County, or Utah Valley, excuse me.
So thank you for this and the opportunity to read down through the compact. There is, if you have it open, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet point down, natural resources. It reads, natural resources advocate policies and programs that support responsible use, preservation, and protection of public lands, rivers, lakes, reservoirs, clean air, open spaces, and renewable energy in conjunction with continued sensible support of fossil fuels. I would like to change part of this sentence where it would read, advocate policies and programs that support responsible use and protection of public lands, rivers, lakes, reservoirs, clean air, open spaces, and continue to support sensible renewable energy and focil fuels. So the part that, if you're following along and trying to,
You're kind of combining renewable and fossil fuels.
I put the renewable energy and the fossil fuels that we would continue to support both of those in a sensible way.
Yes.
And instead of separating them, because with that separation, it looks a little awkward, like one supported a little higher than the other.
Yeah,
And then
I agree with that.
And then the use, and then after that first slide,
like,
I struck out the
You don't want like
preservation.
an ice storm to shut off all the wind turbines and have us go dark like Texas.
Exactly, that's part of the part of the thought. And then I did take and strike out preservation. And the reason why, when we're talking about on public lands in 1970, that the use of preservation has been used to hold back our public lands for a long time now. So I just struck that one out. It doesn't make, all it says is use and protection of public lands, striking out that preservation because of some of the flippant stuff that was going on. So
you see responsible use and protection of public lands, rivers, lakes, reservoirs, clean air, open
Yeah.
spaces, and continuing renewable energy with continued sensible support of fossil fuels. Is that what you're saying?
and here's a clean copy if you want
Yeah,
to
that'd be
look
great.
through it. And then the only other one on the next bullet point, it says attainable housing. They use the word provide. I would like to strike that out and say encourage, because I'm not sure if on a government level, if we want to provide diverse supplies of affordable and accessible housing. That means that we're providing for it. I would rather say we encourage that instead of that we're providing it.
Yeah. I'm good
Using
with that. I saw
private
that on there
interests,
too.
private companies to actually provide the materials and the structures and support of cities who are already doing this. Okay.
So if you're agreeable to those,
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the resolution itself that we should alter because of that?
I read down through it, and I personally like what they have there and their collaboration. And I realize that this is a compact and it's more of high-end goals. It's not really specific, and so I get what they're trying to accomplish with it.
No, that makes sense.
There's just some wording in there that I thought hits me a little bit funny, but
Okay.
so I'll make a motion, and I'll hand this. This is the clean version. I'll make a motion that we approve and authorize the signing of the resolution in support of the Growth and Prosperity Compact as revised.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. That passes 3-0. Okay. Number 8, approve and authorize signing of a settlement agreement.
Okay, I asked these to be held. A lot of times we'll put on there settlement agreements with, of course, no documentation, and they could be anything from land settlement to whatever. In this case, these are settlement agreements when it comes to deputies in our sheriff's department, in which there was some conduct that is cost us some liability, and there's some significant money that's going to be paid out. And I think on a transparency basis, we see these, and I just wanted to note that both these are, and they're different. They're not the same. They're not equal, but there's significant money that's going to be paid out. And I think we should always look at what that looks like. They both still, as far as I know, work for Utah County, and so we just kind of have to keep that on our radar. And that's all I want to do, is just transparency that these are settlement agreements for conduct that the taxpayers are going to be paying some money for.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item number 8 and 9.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passes 3-0. Number 20, approve and authorize a sponsorship agreement between Utah County and City of Saratoga Springs for the construction of the City of Saratoga Springs North Marina.
So I asked this one to be held. It's an agreement that has gone through our TTAB board, and now in the contract basis has gone through, is on our agenda. There is just one line in there that we need to strike. In talking with Adam about it as well, he agrees that we probably should. And Adam, if you could read that line or make reference to it.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Adam Beck, Utah County Attorney's Office. The line that is proposed being struck would be the last line on page 2. It's the line that says the parties agree that the county shall be expected to contribute to any future expenses associated with the current and subsequent phases of the North Marina project, including but not limited to development expenses or maintenance expenses. So just that sentence, I believe, nothing else.
Adam, where's that located at in the document?
That is in section 2, page 2. It's the last sentence of page 2.
And the reasoning for this, as I read down through, is it says the county shall, and it binds us to future agreements, which we have not agreed to, nor has it really gone through the tab board. And so if we just eliminate that sentence, then they still go through their process with the $2.5 million for that marina that we looked at in Saratoga Springs, and they can do the dredging and the jetty.
Yep.
So this is Rob Moore, County Attorney's Office. I understand that Saratoga Springs is somewhat anxious to get this signed and done because they've already approved it and have it signed. My suggestion is that we just strike out manually, if you will, that provision, that sentence, and then we can have Commissioner Sakovic initial that if you approve it that way today. And then we can send it back to Saratoga Springs with a signed version, and then they can put that back on their agenda just to approve that stricken provision.
Yeah. I think they have do they have a committee meeting tonight, don't they?
I don't know. I know that Adam's been in touch with their county attorney, or sorry, their city attorney.
Yeah. It's already been approved at their city council, so I'm sure if it has to be put on, it would have to be at a later date, not today.
Okay. I'm fine with that if we just want to manually strike out that one line or 2 lines.
And if they are meeting tonight, let them know before they convene to be aware
I
of that.
did actually just speak with their city attorney just like 20 minutes before this meeting, and so
Okay.
he's aware of that. And
Okay.
I was going to let him know the outcome from this meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve and authorize agenda item number 20 with the identified sentence being stricken, and Commissioner Sakovic initialing that and moving it on.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that passes 3-0. Okay, 34. Approve and authorize signing of an agreement with Wasatch Trailer Sales Springville to purchase 7 trailers for the sheriff's office.
So I asked this one to be held as well, and I get what's going on there. I'm not in favor of using 1100 account, which is personnel account money, to purchase items like this. And so in the original, when we were going through that process, I was a no. So to be consistent, I'm going to be a no when it comes to this as well.
So no questions. We just wanted
There's
to
no
hold it so we
questions.
could do that.
That was the only reason
That's
why
fair.
I held it.
Any
Okay.
questions for me then?
Do you want me to move so you don't have to?
I'll second it for the vote,
I'll make a motion to approve item number 34.
and I'll second it for the vote.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed?
I'm opposed.
So that passes 2-1. Thank you, Commissioners, on that. 37, designate past due accounts receivable as uncollectible and improve and authorize the amounts to be written off. There was an item there that I asked that we look at and maybe strike to see if we can't recover the funds because they're
Is it the
rather
CARES,
large.
is it the CARES Act one?
Yeah. So there was
I
an
noticed that as well.
Really?
there was an update from the department on that they've been trying for a year to collect that amount, and that there's been a change in management and that they've stopped responding to requests. So I don't know if that changes the feeling on that or if you want to proceed in a different manner.
I
but
like
that-
to proceed that and get their civil division involved
Sure.
and make a house call
Okay, sure.
and get that resolved.
So that's line item 5 on the schedule. So we would strike that line item from the backup.
Now, the others I was okay with. I'm sorry, you asked to hold that, Bill. I apologize for
So,
interrupting.
so I do have a question, and I'm making an assumption as I'm looking down through some of these. The ones, there's a number of them on here, clear back to 2018 on security services. I'm assuming that those are ones in which they have contracted for law enforcement to be there, and we have not and have not collected on those funds. My question is that I'm glad to see that it's clear back in 2018. Have we corrected that now so that we're not going to get these into the future where they contract for it? Are they paying up front now for those services, or what are we doing different so that we don't see these into the future?
So they aren't paying upfront now. I think that we're going to have a little tighter handle on making sure we work with the sheriff's office so that they're aware of anyone that's not paying. Another change that's been made since 2018 is that we have the ability for these people who are contracting to pay online with credit cards. That capability didn't exist back in 2018, and what I found is that makes it easier for us to collect payments on invoices.
Yeah. So, do you see any? Are there any others that are out there besides these that have not been collected?
Not that old. We do have a few that have been sent out this year that are probably about 60 days old, but not anywhere close to a year or anything. And as far as I know, I'm still expecting that we'll receive payment on those.
Okay. I've seen these over the years, and they're always concerning to me that, that they wanted the service, the county provided this, the sheriff's department provided the service, and then they won't pay, which it's like, we got to do something a little bit different so that we get paid.
Right.
So if we're working on that, that's fantastic. Thank you.
Welcome.
Deneen,
Any other
on
questions?
the number 11, this is $5,361 for miscellaneous.
Sure.
What was that?
So there was a leave payout to an employee that was mistakenly paid, and they were contacted at the time. And from what the Human Resource Office is saying is that is uncollectible.
Okay, so we overpaid leave for someone who ended their employment here. Okay. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Deneen. Yeah, so that particular one, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
That should do it, I think.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so make a motion that we designate past due accounts receivable except for
Item number 5.
number, what was it, 5? 5 for $6,600. Number 5, as uncollectible and approve and authorize the amounts to be written off, all the others.
Yeah.
Make a motion.
So moved.
Yep, and I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
passes 3-0. Number 9, receive the recommended proposal for RFP 2022-9 for water system related services and recommend a proposal for further negotiation or award of a contract.
Robert Baxter, purchasing manager. It's a little bit different because this was an RFP that was going to be used both for the county and for Soldier Summit Special Service District. This action today is just for the county, but it was the same RFP, the same evaluation process for both. The top was actually top 4 since this was a tie for third. Number 1 was Sunrise Engineering. Number 2, Hanson, Allen, and Luce Engineering. And number 3 was the tie between Jones and DeMille Engineering and Consor North America. So you'd be selecting from any of those 4, I guess.
You want to make a comment on that?
No, I just held it so that you could, because it has to be selected. That's the only reason why I held it.
You didn't have any issue with the top?
Nope.
Okay, I didn't have any. I'm just looking it up now. I didn't have any issue with the top person, so I'm good. Then I'll make a motion to accept Sunrise Engineering.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 That passes 3-0. Number 40, adopt an ordinance to amend the Utah County General Plan to update the moderate income housing element.
Bryce Armstrong, Community Development. Did you have any specific questions or just kind of wanted a brief overview? What you looking for?
Yeah.
Okay, both. If you recall, about a month ago, 1st of October, we brought the moderate income housing plan before you, which was approved. It was then sent to the state. The state reviewed it and said that it was deficient in a couple areas. So we've attempted to address those deficiencies. One was just not using the exact wording from the state code. So we remedied that. And then the other one was to further bolster our implementation plans with a little more specificity and some measurable goals, which we've done. So there's nothing substantially has changed. We've just been a little more specific in some of the three strategies that the state requires that we've identified as having some more specific measurables. And we also distinguished between our existing ongoing strategies and then identified those that are subject to this statute. And so have sent it on to the state for their review, and they've given us the thumbs up.
They have. I was going to ask if you've given it to them for review.
Yep.
And you have, and they have given a thumbs up.
Yep.
Okay.
So
That was my question.
The only questions I have is there are dates in here, and I'm assuming that the dates are just implementation actions, and so they're going to go away. But we're going to be 10 years down the road and still have the dates in there. Is that okay?
yeah, I mean,
You got some in 2023.
Yep.
And I get it that we're probably saying we're going to have this done by this date. But like I said, 10 years from now, you'll say, what's that date in there? I mean, it's,
yeah, you're right. You usually don't have that much of specificity in your general plan. That's why these requirements are a little
Would let us
odd
know when to
be in
update
there.
it, because we'll know when the last time was.
True, and that was to make sure that we were covering, our deficiencies.
Right.
And again, they're kind of goals, and I would imagine those can be amended as we go forward as needed. So.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
It should be noted, I just found out today, this is not an uncommon situation with others in the state. I just noticed that 75%, or I just heard that 75% of the cities in the state have also struggled with this. So I think there's maybe some disconnect on the application of this statute and some interpretation of it.
Yeah,
So it's been
75%
frustrating.
were rejected, as I understand it, or
Yes.
received notification that they were going to be rejected.
So I think we may have the golden ticket now, so I've got to keep moving on.
Thank you for your work on this.
Yep.
Yeah, I know you guys worked hard on that, and I appreciate it.
Okay,
Do you want to make the motion, or do you want me to?
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 40.
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that passes 3-0. Item 41, adopt a resolution approving the revisions to Human Resource Management Policy 4000, Standards of Conduct. There was some back and forth on this one, and the most recent revision seems to be in line with, I think, everyone in the county, elected officials and appointed, feel comfortable with. Are there any comments on this? And that's why I wanted to hold this. Any additional thoughts about what we have here?
And we bifurcated this, right? This one's just this one's not.
This one's just applicable to employees, not elected officials.
Elected officials were taken out
Employees
of it.
is.
The final
appointed-
version has
Appointed
that.
merited base, department
Yeah,
heads
not
as well.
elected officials, correct.
Yep.
I'm seeing.
No, I don't see no comments, so
Okay.
I count that as a,
Then I'll
Hold
make a
on.
motion to approve item number 41.
Yeah, okay, a second.
all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye, that passes 3-0. Thank you. Now, the last one, number 42, approve and authorize the signing of a resolution approving the 2023 staffing plan. This will take some little dialogue here.
Well, hello, Ralph Barnes, Human Resources. So I'm here to talk about the staffing plan. I'd like to just review some high points regarding the current staffing plan for 2022, and then Rudy's here available to talk about asks for 2023. Would it be helpful if we showed the staffing plan, or do you want me to just to talk through it?
The current one?
Yeah, the current
I think
one.
we should show it.
Yes.
This one?
Yes, the 67-page one. Why don't
Got
you
it.
bring that up? It's not that one.
I usually can scroll through on my phone, but 67 pages was a little long to scroll through on the phones.
So we'll have it up on the screen just as a reference if there's anything that anyone wants to refer to. Okay, so it's split up by department. So if you would like at some point, if you'd like us to scroll forward, just ask and we'll scroll forward. I'd like to point out a couple of observations of the current staffing plan. If you look at the staffing plan a year ago, or about a year ago, when we approved the 2022 plan, and you compare it to what we're asking for now, or what it's in the plan now, we have eliminated 70 positions.
How many?
70.
70.
7-0.
And a lot of that is COVID related to, the health department and nursing. So the health department's been very responsive in eliminating unnecessary, COVID-related positions. They've done a great job. As you know, there was 7 employees that had to be RIFed in that process. Thankfully, most of those were vacant positions, but it just shows the fact that there's a responsibility to make sure that we don't carry on vacant positions in the staffing plan as much as possible. So I thought that was very important. We've also eliminated 8 of the attorney positions. There was 8 attorney positions that were red lighted, and they were utilized to fund other positions. Thus, they didn't really exist. They weren't funded, and they were just in the staffing plan. So those have been removed. And then there's been 8 other changes.
How many was that we removed from the county?
7.
7?
7 were riffed.
Okay.
And then there was 8 attorney positions that were red lighted that have been removed from the staffing plan. Similarly, there's 2 currently, well, actually, I've already removed them from this list, but I think we need to take an official action because they were approved under the JET program, which was approved administratively with ARPA funds, and those actually also need to be removed from the staffing plan. So as you go through this process, I would recommend those be also removed. So that would be a total of...
Can we do this line by line with it, since you're on that?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
not to cause a confusion, but I actually already removed them from this version.
Okay.
So they're
Okay,
out.
so you
and I
have, so they're not in this
They're
version.
not in there. So I just wanted to point out what's been taken
Okay.
out so there's no confusion about
Okay,
that.
so when we vote on this,
It's
those
accurate.
will be
Yes,
removed. Okay.
correct. Thank you. That's exactly right. But I do want to point it out so that there's, again, if anyone disagreed, we could add them back in. There's been other staffing changes as a result of interdepartment changes that did not reach the commission because they were a non-change in expenditure. So there was 8 more that were actually reduced through that process. So I'll stop there. Is there anything just from a current plan? There's some more things I need to speak to, but I just want to stop and see if you have any questions so far.
So, and I'm glad that we had infusion of COVID money, which increased the staffing plan on a part-time basis. And we asked, I saw Eric somewhere in here. I thought he walked in. There he is. And the nurses was a big one, and we knew that we were going to balloon. And then we asked him at the appropriate time to reduce, and that's where a lot of these 70, which it restricted back. And I applaud him for that, because that was a fear going in. It's easy to expand. It's hard to retract. And so that happened. And then the red light on the attorney's one, I totally get that one. 8. And then there's 2 with this JETI program, which we are going to have to like you said, it was in here. The other, though, you said there was 5 or 8 others that, from my understanding, departments did not fund areas and then funded a different position.
That is correct.
I'd like to look at those. And here's my concern, is that when that happens, it can artificially inflate the staffing plan. Traditionally, we have kept the staffing plan harmless as we move into budget processes. And so I think it's appropriate for the commissioners to look at every single one of those as we move into the next budget cycle. Otherwise, we could see a deficiency where you move a couple of positions that are maybe, I'll just call them lower on the salaried scale, and eliminate them so you can get a different higher position, and then turn right around next year and say, we don't have enough workers to help, and so we got to add it, and so it just automatically starts to increase. So I'd like to look at all those 8 and see who they are and see if we agree or not.
And I actually have those here in a spreadsheet. I can send that to you. It's some of them are, it's a little complicated, but some of them are not to create another position. Some are just, deleted positions. I actually missed one that was actually a grant funded, cook in the sheriff's office that was deleted. I can go through them really fast. And then if
there's only 8, let's go through them really fast. Then,
okay, sure.
Then we don't have to continue that to another meeting.
There was a justice court clerk. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That is, we took care of that. I apologize. Let's see, in the health department, there was an outreach home, visitation aid grant funded that was deleted. So that's, another grant funded. That's 2 more grant funded that I didn't include in the other total that had to do with COVID. There was a WIC outreach coordinator, another WIC outreach, coordinator. Do you have any idea, Eric, on what that one was that we deleted? I don't see that we added a position there. So. I think that was the case, now that I think about it. So this was a case where they deleted a WIC outreach job to take that half-time and make one full-time, because they had, 2 half-time positions. Does that make sense?
And that came before us.
Yeah, it did.
During the middle of the year.
Yeah.
And I believe that so there is a difference then, because that one came before us and there was an understanding that we were going to move that part-time to a full-time.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, it was going to be ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have a problem with that at all, because I think that we've already had that discussion.
And we got more COVID positions. Then we have
those are all just deleted.
Correct.
Not for
That's correct.
higher positions. Okay.
Yep. Then we had in the clerk auditor's office, we had the elimination of a voter outreach coordinator and election worker to create an assistant elections director. That resulted in a net -1. And there
I'm in favor of that one.
There was one more. Oh, we, in the clerk auditor's office as well, we took a financial analyst and turned it into an accountant, and that was a straight across change.
Just a job title change?
Yes, but there was
okay.
no change in pay whatsoever. The first one I mentioned, the clerk auditor's office, was actually more funding necessary than was needed to create the secondary position, but it did, it did actually result in a net, -1. But it's kind of a case of what you were talking about.
So that one did not come before us.
No,
except for now.
Correct. And so how we do it, and this happens, throughout the year, although there hasn't been as many as I anticipated, is that if a department head, comes to us and asks if they can change a position or if they can delete a position and create another position that's the same or less value, we go ahead and do that with a memo. We don't bring it before the commission for approval because it doesn't result in costs at all. And so that's always been the process. And although I always try to let you know when those things happen so that you're aware of them, just so that you're aware.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions about those?
Well, so I'm not in favor of the one in the clerk auditors. I think it's to the end of the year, and that should translate into the next year. Let the next elected official make those decisions. And so I would be in favor of funding those two salaried positions lower, because I don't want them to all of a sudden next year say, oh, we don't have enough people to work, and now you got to fund these because we're underwater. So that's my feelings on that one. The other one, is it tied up with our, we had discussions when it came to the financial analyst. There was a budget analyst and a financial analyst. And we agreed to go ahead with the budget analyst and not the financial analyst.
I'm having a hard time remembering, the specifics of that
They had two
situation.
analysts.
Yeah.
They had two budget analysts.
Yeah,
And they were
one
asking
was,
for two
one went to health
financial.
department and one, was promoted. It left them both vacant. This is what I
Health
recall.
department?
Yeah,
I
one
thought
went
we
to
were
the
in-
health department, right?
No.
No, we're in the auditor's office.
If we're talking about the two analysts in the auditor's department, one of them left the county, took a position elsewhere. So it became vacant. And then the other one was the result of a promotion to become the assistant controller. And so we're left with two positions there.
Yeah.
And so the department desired to make one of the analyst positions into an accountant position,
Yeah,
which went straight across.
And during our, in June, when we opened up the budget, there was conversations where those two positions came on kind of late in the game in which we saw them. We had conversations afterwards and said, and I remember, Ralph, we've had these conversations, and we had these conversations too with the commissioners, and we agreed that the budget analyst would stay, but the financial analyst would not.
Now, both of them were existing positions at the beginning of the year.
You didn't have two budget analysts at the
Well,
beginning of the
we
year.
had two financial
they had two
analysts. One
financial
was
analysts.
Specialized in budget.
Christy
The other-
Bayless and Sam. They had two analysts on staff.
So were you looking for a third?
No,
And where was that third?
there
Where was-
isn't a third.
No, we had that discussion. We had that discussion where in the it was the approved amended budget where there was two positions that came online. What were those two positions?
Oh, I think the other one was an accounting technician to take over for the special service district. But now that the special service district is becoming its own thing, they don't need that accounting technician position anymore.
I'll look at my mid-year adjustments real quick.
Look at the mid-year.
I think it was an additional accounting technician, which is lower than accountant.
Yeah, which was not one of ours.
And that was not approved.
And it would have
Because instead, the special service district is going to do its own thing, and we
It
won't
was
be doing.
approved in the adjusting and in the adjustment, but we decided not to actually allow that one to go through.
Yeah, the one I recall, talking about was the, assistant controller position. That funding was in the mid-year adjustment.
Right.
That's the one I recall.
And that one was approved. That's what
I'm actually a little fuzzy on this other piece.
because we had, so there's an accounting technician position, and half of that time was used on was going to be used for the Soldier Summit Special Service District. But since they're doing their own thing, we don't have to do their accounting work anymore. And so they had asked for two positions. One was the assistant controller and the accounting technician. And we agreed to give them the assistant controller position, but not the accounting technician, because Special Service District, they're not going to be doing that work
Well,
anymore.
the budget analyst was added on there too, mid-year.
Yeah, I don't.
No, we have always
I don't
had,
actually
we've had
recall
two
that.
budget analysts since January of 2021. There have been two budget analysts since January of 2021. And there's still only two budget analysts, but then they are filling one and turning one into an accountant because it needs a different resume and a different skill set. So it's really just the title. And the title changed so that
Like
they
there's
could,
something I'm missing here, but I can go back and look at my notes. I just don't recall that piece.
Yeah.
maybe I'm missing something too, because I only remember an accounting technician and the assistant controller.
Yeah.
And the assistant controller was approved, but the accounting technician was not, is what I remember, but I could be missing something as well. And there's only ever been two budget analysts.
I think I know what Bill's thinking. you're thinking about. So we were moving some things around, which included the accounts receivable clerk and included the position that we had an analyst, and there was a desire to get the assistant controller position. And so there was a $50,000 amount put into the budget to accomplish that. And that, I think that's what you're thinking about, because then we had those two positions, and ultimately with the budget, we had those two positions anyways. We didn't give them up. It was actually a straight dollar request in there for that position, for the assistant controller position.
I'm just thinking of the staff right now who works in there.
Yeah, there's no staff change really, other than, so I think that's what it was. We're looking for an additional $50,000 for that assistant controller position, which, at that point we did not know that Samantha was going to leave me to go work for Deneen in that position. So, and I'm grateful.
He's not bitter or grateful.
Yeah, I am. She's fantastic, and it's a great thing for her, and I'm very happy for her. But but that's what we weren't sure at that point in time. And we were looking at the funding issues, and I think it was the $50,000 that we were requesting in the mid-year budget for that.
And so you're saying the mid-year budget, there was no increases in staffing?
No.
To the auditor's office?
No additional positions. I don't remember there being any additional positions added.
I just know about the assistant controller was the bigger issue. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
So,
We had two analysts. One was dedicated to budget. One of them was finance/budget. And one of them left, and it opened up some funding that allowed us to go forward with doing the assistant controller position anyways.
Okay.
So this doesn't equal a net increase.
nope. That one does not.
Just changing a title.
And it's right, correct.
Is it a dollar
Tell
increase
me
or
which one you're
decrease?
talking about. Let's make sure.
Just the analyst to accountant.
No, it's exactly the same grade.
So it's the same salary grade. It just changes the name, but
Correct.
it doesn't add an existing position.
The only increase was the $50,000.
That's correct. That is correct. The $50,000 was the increase.
But not a position, not a whole position.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else on this piece before I go on to grant funded positions? Happy to. Okay. So we currently have
It's a pretty decent amount deleted, by the way. I mean, I was writing that down. That's
I was
almost like 75, I think.
I was
counted.
surprised that I knew there was a lot. I just didn't realize it was that many. So
Ralph, how are we gonna do this? We want us to write these down, or do we want to just talk about them and come to some conclusion as we go?
That's a great question. It all depends on if you intend to make any changes to the current plan or not. And if you do, we would have to make a note of it, and then you would have to vote on it, right? That's if you decide to make any changes to the current plan. And I'll of course make notes on my spreadsheet. On Rudy's, it would be the same thing, but it would be for the asks, where I expect there to be.
So
a
I
little
have
more
these
activity.
broken separately. I have the asks in one spreadsheet and the existing in another.
Right.
Do we want to just go through?
We're going to bring them up separately.
Okay.
So, this is right now today. This is today's spreadsheet. Is there anything in the staffing plan today that should ordinarily move forward into 2023 that you want to change? And then you need to vote on that. And then I'd make a note. Or if you don't, then we just go on to Rudy's. But let me, finish with this. And that's a great question. So there's, 40 grant funded positions. ARPA has 13 of those. And 27 are, other health related grants that
COVID.
are not ARPA.
COVID grants.
They're related to COVID, not always, but they're not ARPA. So they're either state funded or federal funded or school district funded, but they're.
But the grants, the funding is continuing.
That's correct. And we have no anticipation of that funding ending, although as the commission, you do have, the ability to stop the ARPA funding at any time. So you could, if you want to know more about the ARPA funded jobs, then, just ask me. I'm happy to go through those if you'd like me to.
Now,
Do you?
the one I looked at was on the grants team, and they had anticipated not needing 3 people next year.
So that's something the commission could choose to do.
And we could do that outside this meeting.
Correct.
Okay, that doesn't have to be addressed in this meeting.
Doesn't because of the nature of those positions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
that's a really good point, because a lot of these are actually, career service grant funded, which means that you would have to take an action as opposed to an appointed grant funded. So there's a little bit different. You would stop the funding if it was, career service, but for the appointed, you could use either method. You could just choose to not continue employment or stop the funding,
Okay.
or both. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah.
But most of the grants are in the health department, and they are not ARPA. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we can talk about that in another meeting if you'd like.
I didn't talk to Eric, the health department director, about the COVID funded public health nurse too. There's a few of those there. I think about 10. And that's going to anticipate through the end of 26. How long do you expect that these positions will be in place for support COVID?
Eric Edwards, Health Department. So we have some existing positions. You know, we've closed all of our clinics. They are now doing COVID shots, the additional shots that we're doing, immunizations in our existing clinics. If we didn't have these nurses doing that, then we would have that burden of extra COVID immunization on our existing staff, which would mean a staffing shortage. So we're using funding for that purpose. Does that make sense? And so that's why we still have them on board. And we do have monies through 2023 and into 2024. And so we'll continue to assess that. But if giving COVID shots never goes away, that's a public health service that we'll need to do. And if we're doing thousands and thousands of COVID shots, then we'll need staff for that purpose. And that's why it's important that we have those positions available.
Yeah, for me, I've been losing my voice. I hope I don't lose it altogether. But on the line 418 and below, it says health educator 1, 2, whatever, is being, we have these merit status position being underfilled with educator funded by COVID directly, instead of the normal grant funded through the state. So we just couldn't get a person to fill that position except through COVID funding. Is that what we did here?
I would have to look at our staff.
Yeah, this one here shows the merit status here, and the positions are unfilled, but so you're filling it with these here on that side, and then it continues on the next one. It's line 418, 19, 20.
Filling some nurses with health educators.
Yeah, so we were during the COVID-19, well, during the pandemic, we needed epidemiologists to do contact tracing, case investigation, and surveillance. And with the inability to hire nurses, we were able to hire some health educators to serve in those capacities in disease surveillance. And so we do have a few health educators that are still helping with disease surveillance needs. And those contracts have allowed for when COVID is subsiding, we still have surveillance work that's going on right now with COVID work for like assisted living centers and other places like that where we need to stop infection to prevent loss of life. Those are the types of areas where they can help the clinical nurses out. And so we do have some epidemiology work being performed by these three individuals as well as some nursing epidemiologists as well.
So where it says that these are positions tied to COVID, they're able to also provide flu shots and other immunizations, correct?
Some are able to work in other, I believe it's HAI, hospital-acquired infection work, and monkeypox, the recent outbreak with that, they've helped with and saved us really to help the community. And with the variety of surveillance work that's been coming at us. And so the funding has been more flexible for us to be using it beyond COVID work. But those positions that were simply needed for the pandemic, we had separations, as Bill mentioned, back in June, where we had separations with 7 staff and an additional 6, I believe it was 6 part-time staff that were not non-merit. And anytime we've had a position vacate that hasn't been deemed necessary, we have not filled those positions.
Okay.
And so we're trying to be as vigilant as we can to only keep the staffing needed for the work that needs to be performed. Otherwise, it falls back on our existing.
Right. It's just that to me, it shouldn't be the nurses shouldn't be designated specifically to COVID because they're going to be addressing both COVID, flu, other diseases that they need the skills for. So I don't think we have the burden of COVID as we had in the past year.
We definitely don't.
Is it appropriate to change
but
titles?
That would
at this
be
point?
that would be helpful
Okay.
if it would prevent confusion for sure.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah,
As long
because
as all the
we have
funding
a
is coming from
wide
COVID.
range of services that provide COVID shots, so we don't need to give such a heavy focus as a health department, I don't believe, on that.
Yeah, we can.
So, okay, all right, thanks.
Okay.
So that doesn't reduce your public health nurse 2 numbers at all, it just simply changes their title, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we can take off the COVID, designation. I think that would be helpful in clarifying if they're doing other diseases as well.
Right.
That's just how they originally set up.
Correct.
And again, 90% of those are gone.
Right.
So it's
Or
just-
even better, because we have all so many other
we always have a new disease
options
coming.
providing.
So
There will always be new diseases, that's for sure.
okay, so the next thing I'll move on to, and please, tell me if you want me to stop and ask any or answer any questions. We have a very unique scenario here that, first time, probably in a long time, where we're, splitting an office. We're going to have a new clerk and a new auditor. We currently have a clerk auditor. And here's the irony about what's on the staffing plan. We're actually missing one of the elected officials that didn't get in. So
We should probably add that.
we need to have that. So what
I
I
think we approved the elected official
Right.
pay, so we've already approved the pay.
So what I see happening is that the current clerk auditor, position being, turned into an auditor, and then adding a clerk position.
Okay.
You can do it either way, quite honestly, it doesn't matter. But so that does need to be added to the staffing plan, and so that needs to be, pointed out that we're adding an elected official, and as per the plan, is that would be the only addition. That was what I know, Commissioner Sakovic had planned upon, was adding that one position. So I think that's significant that be added to this. And then, does anyone have any thoughts whether it should go one way or the other? I can't see any difference whether we add an auditor or add a clerk.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter to me at all.
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
If you want to,
Yeah, I think we should turn the existing, well, yeah, it doesn't matter. It really, isn't that right, Josh? Okay.
I had visits with Josh and Jeremy, not more with Jeremy than Josh, on how the arrangement would be. And I know that the elected official will be the final arbiter is what the arrangement should look like. But could we bring up a couple slides? Do you have those for the clerk and auditor? Let's go ahead and do that. For me, I was visualizing what this might look like. And I made a couple copies, I thought, for...
So if I could just ask for clarification, are we at the point now in which we're making decisions on things, or are we still going through?
From where I sit, I think you're still having a discussion. And if you reach a point where you want to decide on an item, it would need to be clarified. That item would need to be called out and clarified. That's the way. Yeah, it's not part of the new ask. This is talking about the current plan that's going to move forward, which you can change, or you can change the funding of.
So I'm
Yes.
just going to show
And maybe
a proposal then.
maybe Rob has some advice on how
Here's
this
some
should go
copies.
forward, if there's any.
Doesn't matter. I just want to know where we're at in the
No,
process.
no, it's a great question, and because this is very unique, I think it does need some conversation.
Just a reminder, Rob Moore, County Attorney's Office, that what we're doing today is we're looking at the staffing plan and not the budget per se, just the staffing plan itself. I realize that has an impact on the budget, but that'll be addressed next week that we've noticed up as a public hearing for that. Today is just to look at the staffing plan, and if you decide to make determinations on that and make a decision, then I think that will have an impact on what that budget looks like next week. But yeah, you're just looking at the staffing plan itself and probably saying yay or nay, you can today on positions. Now, you can always change that, but certainly you have the ability to say yay or nay on especially the new ask that you're looking at today.
Okay. So for me, visualizing the split,
Let me also say one other thing. If you have a staffing plan and you look to eliminate a position, then that's a current position that is currently filled. That means we'll have to go through the RIF process. And there's a whole process we have to do that. Just be aware of that.
okay, because that may apply here. What I had visualized, now, Jeremy said that he feels that the auditing department doesn't work on the screen. I'm sorry. But I had visualized the auditor department, and Jeremy feels that it should fall under Director of Financial Services because there's some transition work that needs to be done before that actually happens. That, you know, I'm open to that, but that's how I was visualizing an auditor department being an auditing function would be separate from the other financial services. And it's focused only on financial products. Again, I'm sorry, this will work on the screen, but it does not. So we'll have to not use it. But below the Director of Financial Services, we have the new controller assistant. The controller is always there. I understand the controller will be used for a lot of training and not so much direct handling of the controlling processes as she has been doing for many, many years. So that's why we brought Samantha over to being the controller assistant. But the controller will still be ultimately responsible for the functions of that department. And the assistant is functioning there. And the dotted line there just simply shows she has a secondary role in that organization. And the budget manager, as Rudy just explained, he lost 2 positions there under budget analyst. One was previously filled by Sam and the other one was filled by Christy. They moved on to better things. If Rudy wasn't such a difficult guy to work with, he probably still had both of them.
I trained him up to move on.
Is that what you did? And then the tax administration manager, currently at least, is also overseeing the clerking role of public services, which will be on another slide. And so that person falls under the auditor as well. And then there was a request for financial analysts. I put a question mark to see if that's something we were going to go with or not. Initially, I'm thinking one for 2023 and the other one for 2024. But we'll see what the finances look like, and if that's doable to do both this year or just simply one this year and next year do the second. And then a confidential assistant who could then represent the auditor as needed. And represent while the auditor is either gone or on a different assignment. But that's how I kind of visualize it. Again, Jeremy's suggesting that the auditor should fall under the Director of Financial Services, at least on a short run. So that's going to be the new auditor's decision on how that actually looks. But that's, again, this is how I'm visualizing it. Questions on that?
Yeah. Which of the current, vacant positions are affected by this, would you say?
In this structure, in this slide, none, because you already have a confidential assistant.
I see. Because I think that's the question that I've been asked is we have two appointed positions. We have a chief deputy, and we have a confidential assistant. That used to be with one elected official. Now we have 2 elected officials.
Right. So we have 2 elected officials. So we have 2 positions that need to be moved to one of the 2 positions that's been created.
Right. So
you'd be eliminating the deputy position, keeping the confidential assistant in this case with
Yes.
your proposal,
Yes.
and eliminating the deputy position.
Yeah, that's what you have. You've eliminated the deputy and created a confidential assistant in this scenario, and then there would be another, confidential assistant still existing. Correct?
We have one current.
There's one current.
One current
confidential assistant. It depends on which side you want to put it on.
Right. Correct. And that's the thing that isn't I mean, no one knows right now which side is the chief deputy and the confidential assistant on. And then where do you want to go from there?
Okay, do you have the next slide? Could you?
Well, before you go on to the next slide, right here, you have two finance analyst positions, question mark 2023 and 2024.
Yes.
But their ask is specifically for a training and ERP manager for one of them, and that one would be absolutely necessary next year. Only one of the positions, if you look at their additional asks, one is an analyst position and one is a training ERP project manager. So are you saying we give them one of those but not the other?
I was taking with me two financial analysts, and I did not blend.
Yeah, if you
the
look at
new
their asks,
position
they're
into
only
that.
the only two asks they have here, which would be these dotted lines. One of them should be an ERP project manager, and that is going to be absolutely critical to the continuing operation of the county. As we switch over our finance system, it will affect every department. That is a large, in-depth project, and I think that is absolutely critical. I would not ever do an ERP project without
I
a
did not
dedicated manager.
transpose that one into this chart, so that
Oh,
has
okay.
to be added to it.
So I disagree with that. I don't think we need the ERP project manager on this. I'm okay with going, well, where's the other one that you're talking about is the ask with the
So it's
auditor?
on this page of additional asks
Oh, I've
here.
got it. I've got
That's
it
what I
right
was
here.
looking.
So I'm trying
And
to
there
see
was
where you're
two.
saying it.
There
I
was
see one.
there was a
It's on this page here toward the very bottom here.
and so they only had two asks, and one of them wasn't even to add a complete analyst. It was just to take one of their existing analysts. They only asked for $14,000 to make one a senior analyst. So you take the two open vacant positions you have here. You have budget analyst vacant, budget analyst vacant. What they've asked for is for one of those to be a senior analyst, and it's only $14,000. So they're not actually asking for two positions. They're only asking for one position, and that's the ERP manager. And I can tell you right now, if you've ever done an ERP project, you absolutely need an ERP manager. When the project completes, if we no longer need that person, we could riff that position. But absolutely, a project manager for a project that large is necessary. And I will continue to fight for that. If they don't get it now, I'll fight for it in January. Through my career at Caterpillar, I saw 12 Caterpillar dealers go to a new business system. The largest one was a $2.5 billion company, and every one of them needed a team to switch that over. I think that anyone who has been in that, who has done that project before would need.
So let's go back to the list that we have. I have in the tentative budget, and I have not in the tentative budget. When I'm looking at the auditors, it has the one that you're talking about with the ERP project manager. But I do not see another one on here.
It's not a full ask. It's just if you look at the sheet here, it says $14,000 to make one of their analysts a senior analyst. So I mean that's an easy one. If you want to leave both their analysts standard staff analysts, then you leave them both standard staff analysts. If you want to make one of them a senior analyst, you make one of them a senior analyst. But your chart here shows finance analyst 2023 and 2024, they haven't even asked for two positions. They've asked for an upgrade of one position and an ERP position. So I'm trying to take Tom's chart, the existing spreadsheet, and the additional asks and merge them.
Okay. So what you're saying is that the first box, for example, could be the senior analyst.
Yeah. So for example, exactly. So the first box could be a senior analyst, and that would take care of their request number 406. And then they're asking for an additional position, which would be an ERP project manager.
Okay. And which could be part of the CIP. So you're saying this could be a temporary fix project. Is that why you would recommend coming out of CIP?
No.
Capital
So
improvement
the
program?
senior, the budget, now we have two regular analysts. The plan was to add the two that are under budget. Right now, you see on your chart there, one of those would be made a senior analyst. That was the ask in the budget, right?
Right. And that was the ask in the budget.
Has nothing to do with what you put on your dotted line over there, right?
Right.
So that was all we were trying to do is bump that up anticipating that we would have a promotion there. And then the other one is related to the implementation of the CIP, or the ERP project.
Yeah, the ERP.
So you're saying that the budget analyst should be a senior analyst?
That's what they're asking. They're asking in their additional asks to make one of their budget analysts, the existing position, a senior budget analyst.
Okay.
So it's not the addition of a new position. It's just taking a current position and making it a promotion.
So
And
and then they're only asking for one position, and that's for the ERP project manager.
And even at this point in time, that senior analyst position
Isn't filled. It's unfilled at this time.
It's unfilled, and we're not really, I mean, it'd be great. I'd love to have a senior analyst, but I'm not sure that we're going to get somebody that caliber with our recruitment process. Hopefully, but you never know.
So where is that analyst?
You could
in the- in the-
underfill
in
it
the
with
bu-
a
Where is the
regular
analyst in the staffing plan currently?
Under me, there.
Where it is.
As a
It's
budget analyst?
It's the same as what Tom's schedule shows. We have a budget analyst under there. That position was going to be, that one was going to be made a senior analyst, was the
My
plan.
conversations, I thought we were going to have separate financial analysts in addition to the budget analysts. is
Well,
what I got
that's
from
not
my-
in our current ask right now. So
That was my conversation.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm
I think
not following
we
this.
have a long-term plan, and then we have the current asks in the current budget.
Okay.
And I think those positions, the analysts are more in line with the longer-term plan that we're looking at.
Okay.
Okay.
So you feel that we won't be able to get a senior analyst?
We
I
might.
don't know,
I would love to get a senior analyst. I hope we do.
My take on it is that you try,
Yeah,
and if you don't, then you underfill it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, if you try and you don't, then you underfill it and save some money.
Yes, and that's what we plan.
Shoot for the stars and land on the moon, right?
Heck, I'd love to get somebody that could replace me tomorrow as a budget manager, and we could bring them in and we'll have them all ready to go, but that's not going to happen.
You don't have enough years in
I'm
for
not ready to
retirement
leave
yet.
yet, though. But somebody
So,
of my caliber is what I would
clarity
love,
then,
but-
the second budget analyst box, is that the ERP project?
No, that would,
That's-
there's
that's
an
where the dotted
additional
box
ask. That would
belongs
be the
to.
dotted box below,
Okay.
is the ERP.
All right.
And,
Yep.
and actually, technically, that second analyst box is moved over to the accountant underneath the controller at the moment,
Under controller.
Yeah,
if you look at that correctly.
Okay.
okay.
I'd love to keep it too. but-
Yeah, you're good. So I realize this is related and it's important, but I think we need to get, finished with the current plan as much as possible
Yes.
first, so we
Okay.
can then move on to the asks. But I understand this one is related because of the split. I get that. So I would like to try to wrap up anything the commission wants to change with the current plan before we go forward. And
Then-
again, this probably deals more with the vacant positions in the clerk auditor's office, and that's only because of the split in
Right.
office. This ordinarily wouldn't come up, but you
Sure.
have a unique, situation here. And again, just like you said, you're not going to necessarily set the org chart. That's up to the elected officials. They're going to set the org chart. They're going to do what they want with the money you give them, but you can fund it as you see as appropriate.
Okay. Well, this discussion, at least it helps show what I had thought I had heard in my conversations and double check on what has changed since. Do you have the next slide on the county clerk concept? So in this one, I'm looking at the deputy being a confidential assistant because in my mind, at least, the elections is almost a deputy in of itself because it's the lion's share. Then the clerk administration is similarly arranged, also a deputy in many, many respects. Public services, I have TBD because we moved the tax administration from the clerk to the auditing department, so that's why it shows that as vacant. And then we have the existing marriages and passports, but that's more of a illustration because the marriages can do passports and passports can do marriages, correct? They're cross-trained. And basically the 1+, that means there is a time limited, or excuse me, a team lead overseeing 9 and team lead overseeing, I think, 8 still, if that's still the case, temporary employees, with a proposal of election security to be added for this coming year. But so conceptually, that's what I see. And I think
My only question on this is I do see a senior office specialist in the clerk's department, but I don't see a senior office specialist in the auditor's department. So I didn't know. I mean, senior office specialist, you have it under clerk admin under Alice Maureen, which is
Yes,
fine. But
right.
that position, having the auditor's office be the size that it is without a senior office specialist and also without a chief deputy, if each office had a confidential assistant and a senior office specialist, I could see that. Otherwise, who else in that office is going to fulfill those roles?
That would be a question, I think, for the incoming to decide, and this one might have to be, now that it's in public, we can actually talk to the incoming elected officials what they anticipate. But I don't know if they need a senior office specialist in both departments. I was going to leave the one here as it is because that's how it's been organized due to the diverse nature of the clerk's office, whereas on the other side, the auditor side, there's it's all financial services directed. And so I don't know if there is a senior office specialist needed for the auditor side.
Right now, Maureen works on the auditor side, and I had a meeting with her today as a senior office specialist for the auditor's division. We spent an hour today discussing training and travel for accountants and budget managers.
Yeah, I saw that. I signed off a couple hours ago.
Right. And so like that's the type of stuff that a senior office specialist does that would be done in that office.
That's where I'm going to have to follow up with the incoming clerk and the auditor because I don't know if an office specialist is needed in the auditor's department at this point.
Okay.
Given again this narrow focus that the auditors have in the financial services.
So
world.
really all I'm seeing existing plan, and then I'm seeing 2.5 asks. I'm seeing the election security on the clerk side, the ERP on the auditor side, and then an upgrade of one of the analysts. And I'm seeing that on your org chart here. So it's basically same as we have now, existing plan, right? Because we're talking about existing. And then I'm trying to merge that and his chart with the additional ask. And so that's where the asks show
So what
up,
we
correct?
we have two confidential assistants instead of one confidential assistant and one chief deputy. So we would riff the chief deputy and change.
You don't have to riff it because it's appointed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that position, there will be a confidential assistant position placed there for the auditor, confidential assistant for the clerk. And
But then obviously the elected officials would decide how they arrange these people,
Yes.
however they see fit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on the on the clerk side, I see you're calling it the public service over marriage and passports, which is a new position that would have to, be accounted for. I know we're talking about current now, but the two underneath are team lead positions. I would propose that we probably take those team lead positions in conversations with the upcoming clerk in this case, and probably riff those positions and move them over into specialist positions underneath marriage and passport so that there are specialists, if that makes any sense. So they were team leads. And then leave the time limited underneath for now as they look at it and keep those two team leads in place through January and February so that the incoming clerk can hire their supervisor, and then the clerk and the supervisor can hire the two underneath. Now, obviously,
Then we'd have to add a position of supervisor, right?
Well, would have to add that, which is in this chart right now. So it's in that chart right now, so that they would have that we don't leave that area with no one in it, so that way they'd be funded for two months as they're going through the process of doing the hiring on that side.
So if you did add the public services supervisor, those positions would have the opportunity, to apply for that as well.
Right.
Right, they could apply
Just
for that
want to
position as
clarify
well.
that.
So I would see, so you're thinking of adding so you're thinking of adding a public services supervisor,
Yeah, which he has on
That
his chart.
that TBD spot.
adding that TBD spot, adding that staffing plan.
As a supervisor, because it would be split. Bert would be over on the tax admin side, which now he's the supervisor. And so he would be the supervisor underneath that on the auditor side, which then allows for a supervisor position over here. And then the team leads could be transformed or rift or whatever the case is, and the new positions being marriage and passports would be added so that they could hire into those.
Interesting. Okay. I think I understand that. Okay. So on our existing staffing plan, with the exception of clerk auditor, with the existing staffing plan, do we have any changes we want to make there?
I have some changes. Are we at that point now, Ralph?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it, can I just review what we just talked about really quick? Okay. So what I have so far is add an elected official, add, public services supervisor, delete, chief deputy, and add a confidential assistant.
That's what I had
have
too.
so far.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Write an email, send it to us.
Yep.
So in addition to that, I've got those checked off, which you just said. I think that we need to also reduce the 2 in the attorney's office, which was the pilot program positions
What pages, which lines are those?
that you mentioned that we're going to have to take action on.
There aren't lines
So
on there.
the
but I have them.
so those 2 need to be removed, and then also we need. I propose that we eliminate that deputy election position and fund the 2 lower positions that we had originally at the beginning of the year.
There's one issue with that, is that's already taken place. That has been selected and hired. So
you'd have to fire? You'd
yeah,
have to rip.
if the commission, chose to go that route, it would result in a RIF of that person.
And I think that they understood that, right? That was a possibility.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
So I'll make a motion from what we talked about right there, that those items that we talked about in the different positions moved and the added and the riffing or the changing are part of my motion to adopt.
Go over rest of the, make sure I didn't have anything else.
I would say I'm okay with, I would amend the motion. I'm fine with adding an elected official, deleting the chief deputy, adding the confidential assistant, and adding the public service person, and deleting the 2 jet. But I'm not okay with messing with another elected official staffing plan as it currently sits. I would let the new incoming official do that.
Well, it just happened, right?
It just happened.
So
yes.
we're at the end of the year,
Yeah.
and you have an elected official hiring on at the end of the year, which I made pretty clear from my perspective that I was not in favor of that.
You have said that.
I've said that multiple times.
Yeah.
And so if we're talking about elected officials, then I think that I'm trying to be consistent with that all the way through.
Yeah, and of course, the issue that always comes up, and as we, look into this, is we have not been able to stop elected officials from doing this because they still have control over their funding for that year that's been approved. So even though it's not ideal, it's definitely to make changes during the budget process. There's not a mechanism by which we can stop that, at least that I'm aware of. I don't know if the Civil Division has any thoughts on this, but what I'm told is that as long as they don't expend more money, they can go forward with these types of changes during their tenure as the elected official.
And that way, the incoming elected official, if desires to go that direction, can.
That's correct. The incoming elected official could really do whatever they want with the existing funding as
I had
well.
2 supervisors promoted 3 days before I took office.
And I don't like that.
You didn't stop it then.
Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I'm not aware of a way to stop
Conversations I
this. So, any thoughts, Rob?
Well, these staffing plan changes are 2023. That's the intent here. And so what would happen is if you eliminate a position, that would have to go again through our RIF process. There's a reduction in force process in our HR policies.
So that would happen next year?
So it would have to, well,
'Cause this is
you
the
would have no
2023.
funding in 2023 for this position.
Right. So in 2023, they'd have to go through the RIF process.
You probably have to do it before, just prior to, because if you have no money come January 3rd for that position, then that's a problem. I mean, there's no funding for that position.
Of course, they could always take other vacant positions. I
And
mean,
fill
there's a
that
lot of
one in.
things elected officials
Sure,
can
they
do.
could
We're
do those-
finding out.
Once you've approved that, yes. The problem is every position in this county in the county government has to be in the staffing plan.
Gotcha.
And so it's got to be that. Now, the new county commission could decide to put it back in and not eliminate that position.
Okay. I don't want to riff anyone that's already in a position. But
So we knew this was coming, and Ralph and I had multiple conversations with it, about it. And I made myself pretty clear to Ralph to make sure that the elected officials knew exactly how I stood with it, going into it, and that's where it stands. I don't want to mess with, and I've been consistent with that even when it came to, the other offices that not in favor of that, even if I agreed or disagreed with it.
And for my part, I'm not sure why we need a deputy elections because we don't have a deputy clerk administration or deputy director of financial services or deputy auditor manager or deputy tax administration. Was a question mark for me as to why we need a deputy election.
well, we do have a controller who's a high level under the director of
Yes.
financial services. And we do have a
Yes.
budget manager that's a high level under there.
Right.
And we do have a purchasing manager that's a high level under there.
Yes.
And I probably wouldn't compare the auditor's department with 2 employees to the elections division.
No, I'm saying that the pattern here is that we have a key person and you have a very strong elections team in the elections community. And for my part, I'm not clear why we need a deputy because you have a very strong team. They work extremely well watching what they do. And if Roseanne, for some reason, wanted to take a vacation, heaven forbid she should ever do that, then any of these members of the team could pick it up and carry it through until she returns. So from my part, that's the only question. That's why I left it off on this, is that's what I thought it should just be the single person there. So with that,
So we've gone through the existing plan.
have we finished? Do we need to finish this still?
Yeah, we still need to go to the asks next.
Well, I do have a motion on the table.
Yeah, I
so-
think
That's
this
kind
has
of-
to be
and we have a
resolved
counter
first.
motion. So again, I need to go with Commissioner Lee on not having a deputy elections, as I illustrated up here. I think any number of people in the elections team can pick it up for Roseanne if she's not there. So I'm not sure if we need a deputy elections.
Well, it's an assistant elections director, which is not a deputy elections director. That's very different. So it would actually be her assistant, so that would be the person designated in her absence. That's really the only difference, is designating the person in her absence and is creating succession planning. I'm not sure, I mean, I'm sure you're very familiar with succession planning, because in the military, they had exactly that, succession planning. You had ranks that you went through, and you started at one level and you went through those ranks. And that's exactly what this is doing, is it's creating succession planning so that we can have a career plan for our employees, so that we don't continually recruit awesome employees and then train them and then lose them to other places because we don't have any plan for them. I know that that's been the modus operandum for our county for the last 30 years, which is why we continually lose good talent. But just like you experienced in the military, and I know that you know this concept, that if people are given a path that they can go through. So, for example, in elections, somebody could go from elections technician 1 to, elections specialist 1 to specialist 2. After specialist 2, they could become an elections technician. At that point, they could become an elections supervisor. After elections supervisor, they could become the elections coordinator or the assistant elections director, and then eventually the elections director. So really, it's just taking existing positions, creating a succession plan, and also creating a hierarchy so that when Roseanne's gone, it's not like Carly, Chris, and Justin play rock, paper, scissors to figure out who's in charge. There's actually a clear succession planning to do that. And so I think that would be, I personally don't assume that I know how to run elections better than Roseanne, who's one of the top 5 election specialists in the country. I would leave that up to Roseanne, and that was what she thought would be good for her staff for those succession planning. It gives people a talent line that they can follow. It follows best practices similar to what you experienced in the military. And I think it gives our employees a good line that they can follow.
Yeah, in the military, we have assistants, that's true, executive officers, but that's only at a certain level. And below that, they don't have assistants. They just have team leads basically under one person. So that's how I saw all these organizations. That's why I had just one person in each box. Other than public services, I didn't know exactly how to address that at this point.
Right, and I think the elected official and the people in that department will decide where each of those individuals goes. That's their purview. Our purview is to approve a staffing plan, and part of that staffing plan, a budget, and beyond that, I trust the professionals that we hire and trust to do those jobs to determine where that money is best used. So I don't presume to tell Roseanne where best to spend her money and where best to put her people, because that's her purview as a professional. I would afford Deneen the same respect as the controller and decide where she wants to put her people and where those people go under her. I would give Jeremy the same respect. I would also give the folks in the the assessor's office that same respect, just like I don't, I'm the portfolio commissioner for Eric Edwards in the health department, but I don't go to Eric and say, hey, I want you to move around your staffing plan to the org chart that I feel is best. I leave that to Eric because he's a professional in public health. I'm not. So I look at my purview and I say, do I feel that this is a correct budget for your office to do what it needs to do? We set the budget and I let them use it how they best see fit. And that's the method I take. So I would take that same method and say, I think all of us agree on the budget for it at this point. The difference is I'm trusting Roseanne to say, you want to take those 2 positions and make one. You guys want those to be 2 separate positions, but I think the budget is the same either way. So I think we agree on the budget. We just maybe are taking different approaches to it.
Yeah. So I see that happening in all these organizations. They will most likely after the budget's been approved, they will likely move people around to fit
Right,
the need.
exactly. So as far as budget goes, we all agree, add the elected official, delete the chief deputy, add the confidential assistant, add the public services lead, delete the 2 jet positions. All of that's an agreement. And then in fact, we even agree on the budget for the other part of it. I just say, Roseanne decide how to arrange her staff as she sees fit, and you guys want those to be those two positions. But I think the budget is the same either way.
Well, it's not quite, because also the team leads, the team lead ones right now in the current, those would be funded for 2 months, and then they'd be moved over under the marriage and passport specialists. So that would be a difference. And I just don't see the need for that. I think that's bloating. There's a bloat going on there for an individual, not necessarily position growth in that. I'll reiterate my motion, searching for a second, that we don't fund the deputy election position, that we reduce the pilot program for that position for the Jetty program, that we add the Utah County Clerk as an elected official, that we add the confidential secretary, that we add the public service a new position, as a supervisor, and that we fund the team leads for 2 months as they then transition over into specialists underneath marriage and passport.
Do we have the title specialist now?
Huh?
Do we have the title specialist now?
No.
Or is he I think we'd have to create them in that office. We do have, specialists in other office, but I don't think we have them in that group.
Okay, so then once again, I'm not going to second that motion because I'm not going to create a job title for an elected official that doesn't currently exist.
I really don't care what the title is. It's just the position. Whatever the title wants to be, it's fine.
So the title is to be decided.
Yeah.
Okay. So those positions will be titles to be decided by the new clerk.
Which is the same as it is today. The clerk can come in and change their title anyway, so there's no reason for us to even mention it in the budgeting motion. The new elected official will come in and decide the titles of any of these positions and change their job descriptions as they see fit.
Correct, yeah. So basically, we approve this public services as it's currently defined with a vacancy in the manager role.
With the vacancy in the manager role.
Yes.
Yes, I would agree to that.
Okay.
And then the two team leads, though, go away
No.
through
the end of February.
Through the end of February, and then they rehire these other two positions.
And
I'm not sure we can do that.
I would say, because we'll have to have a budget item for those two positions, I think.
Right.
Okay.
But you're only wanting to fund them for 2 months.
Just so that there's continuity between the end of the year and the start of the new, because their supervisor is going to go into the other office.
You'll have to figure that out.
Okay, so what's the problem?
So
you're eliminating positions.
Are we talking about team leads over in Bert's office, or are we talking about team leads in the
Marriage and
Alexis
passport.
Marriage and
office?
passport.
Marriage and passport.
Oh, okay. Not the tax admin.
Okay, I just,
Just when you create the budget, you'll need to adjust that if that's what they.
So basically, if the team leads are left in place and funded through the end of the year, then what you're saying is that way the new clerk.
No, they're
can then
currently,
change that position.
they're already funded in the clerk's office.
2 months.
But the next 2 months, but if
It's
he's
2 months after January and February.
But if he wants to take two positions or one position and create this, we have to have so this is part of the proposal.
We're just adding in a position. We're not changing any of the positions that are currently there.
I think what I'm getting here is that the public services position is vacant as in what its title will be.
Right.
It's a position that we're going to be identifying today.
Correct.
We are going to fund the team leads as they're currently existing through the end of February, but they will go away as effective of 1 March.
So you're eliminating 2 positions in February.
Just a reminder, we're not talking about funding positions today. We're talking about a staffing plan. If we were going to talk about funding positions, we would have had noticed this up as a public hearing.
Okay.
So we're only talking about what the staffing plan is going to look like. Next week is the week you're talking about all the funding that goes within budget.
So what we're proposing then is a blank title for public services manager.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about 1 team lead out of marriages currently identified, 1 team lead out of passport.
Positions.
And those 2 positions are to be ended by the end of February, correct?
Right, but that's a funding issue, so.
That's a funding issue, not a
But we're
staffing plan
talking
issue.
about
But the staffing plan includes the
Staffing
team
plan.
leads. Okay. All right, so the staffing plan would
Well,
include
it
the
doesn't-
team leads.
It just includes positions, not
Yeah.
necessarily the designation of the title.
Bert Harvey, Public Division Manager, Public Service and Tax Administration. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm clear on what's being proposed. We're proposing riffing 2 existing positions. By the way, Mayor's License Passports has 4 full-time people working there, including the time-limited positions. 2 of those people are customer service associates. They both report to each of those individual team leads. Both of those team leads are acting in a supervisory role right now. So that's why they're team leads, is they're acting as supervisors, not only supervising the 2 full-time staff there, but also supervising the time-limited staff. And you're proposing riffing supervisors, turning them into non-supervisors, and I'm not sure the basis for that.
It's a matter of putting a box in there, letting the new elected official decide what they want to do with
hiring
that
the manager.
side.
That makes sense because
I mean, let me finish. So you hire. I mean, the new clerk is coming on board, the new public service supervisor, which will be hired with the clerk, and then allowing those 2 to then fill the positions underneath.
Okay, but those positions already exist. So if you're saying hiring a manager, well, we hire managers all the time, and they come in and they have existing staff. So what it seems like you want to propose is that we hire a manager or supervisor, whatever their title being, to come in for the Mayor's License Passport office. But you're also not guaranteeing that the 2 team leads are there already. You're not guaranteeing their job past that point, that they have to somehow be interviewed for their jobs. That they already have one person who's been there for nearly 30 years.
So,
Hey, Rob, how would you like to have to interview for your job
there
after the
is
first of the year when you get a new elected official?
There is the potential of a different vision of how this works, of how
Well, I think the
this
elected
works. And
official
so
should-
let me
should do
please
that after-
let's not jump in. This is not a debate. So there's a potential of changing what this side of the equation looks like. And so I want to give that elected official all the opportunity to change it in the way that he sees fit.
He has that opportunity now.
And that means even with those that are hired on there now, if he wants an opportunity to change it and say, let's go a different direction.
He has that opportunity now without potentially riffing a 30-year employee.
What I think what we should do with this particular aspect of it is, now that the November elections are out of the way and we know who the incoming clerk and auditors are, we can let them
Make those decisions when they take office, Commissioner.
Yeah.
When they take the oath of office, that's when they get to make that decision. I've gone through administrative changes, and that's how it's supposed to work. And we work with the new clerk. We will work with the new clerk to make sure he has the best team and the kind of team he wants. But right now, you're proposing riffing 2 employees that are full-time career service employees. There's a total of 4 employees on the basis of what? They both served. Both the team leads have been exemplary servants. One has been here for over 30 years. And I don't see the need to do that. If you want to hire a manager, that makes sense. But managers get hired all the time. They come in and they have teams that they take over.
And then they reorganize those teams as they see fit when they
reorganize
get
those
in.
teams as they see fit. And I'm sure the incoming clerk has a vision for what he wants for the office, and he absolutely should be given the ability to do that. But I think he should do that when he takes office. And I don't think that making a drastic change to the staffing plan right now, of what you're proposing, and basically telling 2 people, sorry, you're no longer going to have a job based on what?
Well, you're making an assumption. You're
I'm
making an
making an
assumption
assu-
that
I'm
they're
making an
not
assumption based off
going to go
your-
and try to and apply for maybe the supervisor position.
I have a job, Commissioner, and I'm happy with my job.
No, you're making an assumption that they're just not going to have a job. What if they apply for the supervisor position?
And let them apply for the supervisor position, but I don't think that we need to eliminate it doesn't sound like you want to necessarily eliminate their positions, but you want to eliminate the fact those positions exist. If they change the title, they change the title. But you're riffing 2 positions with no basis. I'm not sure the logic there.
The positions are going to change. I think we need to move on. This, again, we're moving it all into debate, which is not really a debate format here for it. So,
Well, I thought
Mr. Chair,
I didn't think I
that we
could.
should move forward. And I call the question for at least this item, since we have a motion, on the table, and I'm looking for a second to it.
I actually have an amended motion that I've made.
I'm not giving a second to that one.
So my amended motion was to do basically what Ralph started with add an elected official, delete a chief deputy, add a confidential assistant, add a public services manager, delete the 2 jet positions, and then let the elected officials sort it out the rest when they come into office. Those are the only changes.
And the only difference,
the existing
the
staffing
difference that I have is that the deputy elections, or the assistant, however you want to word it, the assistant position is eliminated from our staffing plan, and the team leads are funded through.
But this is not a funding discussion. This is a staffing plan
Well,
discussion.
they're stated. We leave those 2 positions as they are right now with the boxes around them for a budget discussion later.
Okay. So that's amended than what you originally proposed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have an amendment to the amendment?
So I'm in procedural basis. The amendment's up there. I'm not giving a second to Amelia's amendment, and you have to decide which way you want to go with your second.
So if we hold this one as a budget item for later on.
Right. The only difference between Amelia's and mine is the assistant elections director.
That's the only difference you see, correct?
At this time.
Okay.
So again, this is not about the budget. It's about
It's a position.
putting the VOC and the elections worker back in the staffing plan and taking out the AED position, which technically won't take effect till January 1st. Just,
So it won't change anything this year.
it won't change anything today.
Yeah. So this is effective January 1.
Yeah, and it's about, again, this is about informing the budget that you'll approve next week. So Rudy will take this information and create a budget, based upon what's in the staffing plan that you have talked about today. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Make sure I'm following this correctly. I'll support the motion of deleting the 2 jet positions, adding a elected position, deleting the clerk, the deputy position, adding a confidential assistant position, and deleting the assistant elections position.
And adding a public service supervisor?
Excuse me, you're right, public services manager, whatever that person is going to be called, correct. That would be my motion then.
That's your second?
That's my second. So all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Aye.
Nay. That passes 2-1. Okay. There's more in the staffing I'd like to discuss, but we have a board of canvassers supposed to begin meeting about 10 minutes ago.
Do you want to look at the asks right now, or is this going to be another meeting? Because I was going to bring up the asks.
We're going to have to, we either have to look at them now, or we're going to have to push the budget off, or we're going to have to do it during the budget meeting, which means we'll have to be moving budget numbers on the fly.
Or we can have a recess, do the board of canvassers, come back to this after.
Right.
Yeah, we do that.
Let's do that.
Okay. So at this point then, do we need to call a motion for a recess?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, we are in recess. We'll come back. For the Board of Commissioners meeting today. And the first item we will discuss, we'll propose to bring off table, from table item number 16. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'll move to continue item number 16 until November 30th.
Second.
Is that the 28th? Oh,
Nope,
20
it's the next meeting on the 30th.
30th. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes 3-0, November 30th.
I move to strike item number 50.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 3-0 as stricken. We are now back to agenda item number 42. Approve and authorize the signing of a resolution approving the 2023 staffing plan. So,
Are we ready to move on to?
Yeah.
Okay, now that we've had our fun with the existing staffing plan, we're ready to move to the
New asks.
the new ask. And I
Yep.
want to point out a couple of things really quickly that the schedule that I sent you previously, item number 402 for the grammar clerk and legal assistant in the civil attorney's office has been removed from the budget because it was duplication of what we approved last in 2022. There are two items that are missing from this schedule here. They were in the original new asks, which is item 345 and 346, a trail supervisor in Fund 281 and a trail specialist in Fund 281 as well.
This is under.
These are two
Works.
items that were missed from the schedule that we have there that I sent out to you last week. It was erroneously excluded. It was in the other long list of all of the asks that we sent to you previously.
I think that was Public Works, and was it T-TAB?
Yeah, it's Public Works and it's
TRCC.
and it's in the 281, the TRCC.
That's what I thought. Okay,
So it's paid
So
for out of
it's-
the TRCC fund.
Is it the FMS? That's how it's listed on my list.
No, I
Fund
think that was
281, the 345 and 346.
The two in Public Works.
No, I think those are
No,
different.
no.
Those are
Thi-
different.
This was erroneously omitted from the schedule here.
I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah, it's item number 345 and 346 on the original schedule of asks that we gave to you.
So it's not on this one.
It's on the other one, the big one.
It was on the big one that we had. I remember seeing it.
And they were, and what were they again?
In Fund 281,
The positions.
there was a trail supervisor and a trail specialist. And there was a confusion. It might have said parks supervisor and park specialist. What they're planning to do is split the two, so they have one dedicated to trails and one dedicated to parks. And
that the same one where they had the extra request for an F-250
no.
supported?
Oh, perhaps. I don't recall. It may.
Right.
It probably was.
Maybe it did.
I don't have that schedule in front of me.
Okay.
And then there's one other correction to this schedule here. Item 174 for wildland fire is actually a duplicate. It was erroneously added twice to the schedules. And so the total positions requested by wildland fire is 6, 3 in general fund, and 3 identical positions into Fund 248, the grants fund, for the whatever the federal services.
Okay, going back, so I have under Public Works, under Parks, I think what you're saying is there's a new position for Park Maintenance Supervisor.
Correct.
That
Yes.
one?
That's
Okay.
it.
Those are the ones.
And the other one is a Park Maintenance Specialist.
Yeah.
Correct. Those are the
Yeah.
two positions.
Okay,
And so
okay,
those
so
were
I've
on
got
those
those.
were on the big one we got, but
Yeah.
not the one that was attached to
Not
the
on this.
The one that was
whatever.
attached to the agenda was
So
not
the
there.
paper's up
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to do a little housekeeping here.
So, a thought on since we went through our last year's, the staffing plan, there have been conversations in the staffing plan for moving financial individuals currently in that plan. Is this not the time for that? I mean, because that's not a new ask.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those
it's not
were not
a new
new asks. I
So
mean,
I'm wondering if we need to go back to that and have that conversation.
I mean, I
Because their
think
current
technically
position-
we could,
I thought we,
or we could just move them anytime between now and the end of the year. Because the budget's already going to be there. We can just choose to move them at any time.
Oh, so we could probably just move them instead of a staffing move, it would
Yeah,
be a
it literally-
budget move.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Need to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
all right.
So,
And that's a good idea.
I didn't introduce myself. I'm sorry. You all know me, but I'm Rudy Livingston. I'm budget manager for Utah County. So I should have taken care of that first as well for the record. So we're here to talk about these things. So I put together a listing of all of the positions with these few housekeeping issues that were requested in the budget. And these have been split up into positions that were included in the tentative budget and positions that were excluded. So as we go through this listing here, the commissioners can opine on whether they want a position or don't want a position. If you choose to not have a position that was included in the tentative budget, the effect that will have will be to reduce the general fund budget. Now, if we leave them alone and say, let's keep them in there, it will be no change. If you want to add some of the positions that were originally excluded from the tentative budget, that will have the impact of increasing the tentative budget. So I think maybe the easiest way of doing this is just going down this list.
That's what I was going to say. I think for each one of them, I have yes, no, restricted, maybe. And then
I have the same.
okay, so if we just kind of go through and see where the other ones.
I think the only concern I have though is sometimes there's duplicate asks. And,
Yeah.
And so if we have duplicate asks for a position and we say yes on one and no on the other, and they say yes on one and no on, we could get mixed up where we maybe want to
Yeah.
say, you
Yeah,
see what
yeah.
I'm-
Well, I mean, if we do it while we're talking like this, if it's like, well, I'm okay with one,
Add it to this.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be line by line. You may have to go down there and say,
Yeah,
it's
like two at a time if we
might
need
be-
to.
There shouldn't be any duplicate items
That's
on
good.
here, though.
That's okay.
Well,
No, I
there
know
are.
what you mean.
Yeah, okay.
We got it. Okay.
And then, so the ones that you're adding on here, you're going to do those at the end then? Or should we do them at the beginning or whatever? I don't care.
The ones that were,
The ones that you're talking about with parks and maintenance and specialists.
I mean, I don't care what order you do them in. I just pointed out that they were missing from this schedule that's on the screen behind you there.
Okay.
Or in front of you. I
That's
don't know.
this schedule. I just want to make sure I'm on it. That's this schedule that you sent to us.
My eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. This, I think, is this the?
Or are you
This is
talking about, you're talking about this one?
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So this is the one, this is the big schedule where it has everything
Right.
in there. I'm talking about that schedule there, which is,
And so at the bottom, when we finish this, we'll just have to add the trail
That should
supervisor,
add
trail
up, right?
specialist.
That's,
well, these are some notations here that this is not the same as that. All of the requests should agree. They should be agreed.
Okay.
Well, as we go through the list, if there's
Let's just
something
go
I
through the
don't
list
see,
and we'll
then I'll
figure
know
it
I've
out.
got a different list.
I just want to make sure I'm on the right list.
So we're looking at that schedule right there.
Okay.
My notations were not on that schedule. That's the only problem is I put all my notations and my stuff on this.
On the
schedule.
other one.
This-
And
Let's
that's
try
okay.
it, and if it gets
And so-
confusing, then we'll figure something
We'll
out.
work it.
Yeah, and the reason it's okay is because if you look at that schedule, it has a request number.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you look
Okay.
at your schedule, it has a request number. Those
Yeah.
request numbers are the same.
they're
Okay,
not.
perfect.
That one up there says,
No, but the positions will.
It says
That's 7?
request number 5. Not lines, request in column C.
He can't see the red. This column right
Yeah,
here.
you can,
but where does that show up on this
so
one?
go up here to the top.
This is where
So
all my
we got
notes
a
are.
request number right here. You can see those in gray, right?
I can see those.
Yeah, so it's this request number is the same as the request numbers up there. So request number 5 up there is the same as, oops, we got numbers here, not, just escape that. Actually, sorry, I went to break.
You see what I did? I took your list and I said yes or no to it on this column.
Oh, you're down here.
Yeah, I went to the bottom where you had a compiled list.
This is a lot more difficult, but let's see if we can
We
make
can do
work.
it by,
Let's see if we can make
if you
work.
just, if you
Let's
say
see
it,
what
I can.
Okay, we'll say what position it is,
Yeah.
and then you should
No, I can
have that
find
in there. So the first one on the list is request number 5, which is clerk elections, salary for election security specialist, total of $79,157, which is included in the tentative budget.
And so for me, I would say yes to that. So you just type that in.
Okay, I'm good. I'm noting them here. Amelia, do you have a preference?
I put restricted.
Okay, and Bill?
I put yes.
Okay, all right.
Restricted because.
So you're saying restricted, but what we would do is we would approve the position, but then put it down in restricted
'Cause I
lines
want-
so they
yeah.
can't fill it until the commission gives approval.
Yeah,
Got
because I wanted to see the production of that position
Yeah, okay.
just before we fill it. So I didn't mind putting it away aside like they might need it, but I wanted to see if there was production. But if you both voted yes, we're fine. We can keep going.
All right, in mosquito abatement.
So you're going to fill it in, yes, yes?
I'm putting it right here on my screen it's not on there, it's on my screen.
Okay, I'm
but-
watching this one.
So, which is fine. I mean, if you, I don't have that one, but if you want to put it on there, are you on it?
Might as well, that way we
Just
can
put a
see it.
yes, or YRY is what I'm doing here.
YRY, that works.
So we make sure we're all on the same page here with this is what we want to do. Then what I'll do is once we're done with this, we should have a tabulation on what it does to the total if we do it right. Okay, mosquito abatement, they want a drone pilot to fly their drone. Now this presupposes that you're going to approve a drone for them.
So
in
I
the
am going to
budget.
approve a drone, but I put restricted on this one because I want to see if they can put it out to RFP.
Okay.
To see if they can if they can contract with the drone pilot before we bring one on full time and add to the head count.
So I put maybe, and the reason why is because I asked to go back and see where the offset was with the time limited budget. The offset was about $19,000.
Yeah.
We're going to be expending $91,000. The question comes in.
It's not going to break even.
It's
Right,
not
it's
gonna
not a
come-
break even.
it's
So
not a
I
break-even.
wanted to see if they could go out to RFP and see if they could get anyone to reply to an RFP to contract out for it.
And we are already contracting now on the drone pilot, and so.
Well, we're contracting the whole service right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, the whole service, not just the drone and everything.
Right.
And so.
So I said restricted because then it doesn't necessarily have to be an 1,100. I wanted restricted. I want to set money aside to see if we could RFP that out. Does that make sense? And then if for some reason we couldn't RFP it out, then maybe hire that position. But I wanted to try to see if we could RFP it
Plus,
out.
we
for
want
less
to see
money.
what they do on the off season.
Yep.
They're full time.
Yep.
Would that work, Eric?
The problem is there's only one company,
Come on.
DCPI.
You probably want to come up for the record here.
So
We don't know if there's only one drone pilot in the county.
There's Dan's done some research, and he told me that I asked him that. He said that VCDI is the only company that has a pilot that does that is licensed to do. You have to have both the pilot's license as well as the pesticide applicator license, which is another thing, and being licensed and insured for it too. And we only get them about twice a week. That's one of the problems is when we find out that we have a source area that we need to hit with the drone, we have to wait for the pilot to be available. He might be in Elko or somewhere else, shared among different states. And another county has a pilot now up north, their own, that they use for mosquito abatement special service district. And the contract we have right now is $31,000 about for the lease. I mean, not the lease, but the contract we have for the service is going up to $62,000 next year, and it's going to go up again. And so that's increasing. Dan also reduced his chemical budget by $40,000 because of how efficient the drone is. He was able to reduce his chemical budget by $40,000. In fact, that's how he budgeted this year. I think he thought because of June and his presentations, I think he was feeling the support, but realizing that this still is a final word. But that's another issue. And then there's also, I should have brought my list of things I talked to him. He was here and he wanted to speak to this in case you needed additional questions, but the cost, he told me that the cost of contracting with a pilot, he thinks would be greater than the cost of us hiring somebody.
That's pretty much what we covered a few months ago, so I just
yeah,
wanted
so-
to have you reiterate, but so that, thank you, Eric, that should do it.
Okay, all right.
But I was in favor of this just because of the savings because the price is going up, we have access immediately to the pilot. And then during the, I guess, 3 months of the year that he's not actually flying, he's going to be used his drone for other services, perhaps in support of health department
Perhaps.
functions, in support of the sheriffs and augmenting their needs. Public Works will likely use them. So I think there'll be multiple things that he could use it for. So for me, I was yes on that one.
I've outdone my welcome, but he can supply a list of what that person will do when he's not flying and
Yeah.
supporting the system.
Quite a few things, yeah.
There's 3 full-time employees. The rest are seasonals that they bring on.
So he would be one of the full-time?
Yeah, he'll be a 4th, an additional. So it will be a new, and he will have that individual help him with an upgraded lab that he's building right now, and training this person also to do other things that are needed for his department.
I can change mine to a yes on that.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'll be clear that the analysis I've done shows that it will cost us more than what we're currently paying. But
it's
we
also
will get better coverage.
Better coverage, but it's going to be increasing in cost
Yes.
because of changes in contract.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just, to be clear.
So only one question on that, I think, and that is, we're hiring this drone pilot for whatever period of time during the year to fly that, and he's certified to do that. But on the off season, he's going to be not doing that work. He'll be doing, I don't know if it's lesser work, but he's getting paid at the rate of his drone pilot certification. So he'll be overqualified for the work he's doing off season, but paid higher. I don't know what, you see what I'm saying?
There's lab work that can be done, which is what is a lab technician would probably be comparable. I would have to look at that comparison. I haven't compared that, but I understand your question. Dan can provide a list of qualified, I believe, tasks that would fit the pay grade for the pilot. I understand what you're asking, but that's his challenge is to find stuff that's beneficial to the public. Ultimately, is what we're asking for.
You got 2 yeses.
And if you know Dan, that will happen. Whether it be research needed to improve services, methods, integrated pest management protocols to prevent harm to the environment. All of those things Dan is constantly working on. This person also has a bachelor's degree, potentially, that one individual that might be a candidate for it in EH as well, environmental science, so might be able to assist with that specific work as it comes to zoonotic diseases and insect-related diseases and things like that too. So I think there's a lot of overlap where we can utilize this position. So
This drone is what, 48 by 48 inches or 70?
it's 6.5 by 6.5 feet.
So
it's a large
72.
You don't want to crash it because then you
So
have to get
78 inches by 78 inches.
we don't want a wedding photographer drone pilot piloting this puppy. So
yeah.
Okay, next.
Okay.
All right. So we got yes, and a question mark from Commissioner Lee. On to the Sheriff's Department, admin support. They're asking for an additional record supervisor. They believe the workload has gotten to the point where they need to have somebody additional in there to help them out. And so this is...
I said yes.
I said no.
I said yes on that one.
Okay. Training deputy.
I said yes.
No.
That one I'm a maybe. I'm not clear on that one entirely yet.
Okay. So I guess ones that we don't come up with a complete decision on, we could bring them back next week as part of the budget discussion. Is that correct, Rob?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make that clarification for us. Okay, the next one is the Corrections Administration Sergeant.
I said yes.
I'm a no.
I said yes to that because I see the increase of bookings.
Yeah. They want a corrections nurse.
I said yes.
And this is actually an upgrade from a part-time person. They just need more.
Yeah, I said yes to that one.
Amelia, did
no.
you say yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Bill, Lee?
I said no. And the reason why is we gave the sheriff's department quite a bit last year. And so it's,
I was seeing with the changes in elections, there's going to be a change in number of
People in the jail.
in jail.
Okay,
That's what
the
I'm
next
saying
one,
there.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yep. So for
The next one's the UCAP.
So I said restricted because we may be funding several positions through the opioid
Through the opioid,
program.
yeah.
And so I think before the year is ending, they're going to need it, but I want them to have to come and ask for it because I don't want them to hire it in January if they don't need it till June. So
Okay.
I said restricted.
And I'm in the same mindset on that one because, as you just said, they've got 2 requests through the opioid, which makes sense. But at the same time, I was talking to the undersheriff and he didn't have any answers yet. But I can
Yeah.
see that increasing
exactly.
over the years to come. We need to start
Yeah.
planning
Yep,
through
so-
general fund
so
in about
we'll-
15 years' time.
We'll earmark the money, but maybe
So
not need it.
I see
Yep.
it as restricted for now, and
Okay,
if it
same.
grows,
Commissioner Lee?
I was a maybe on that one.
Okay, so we'll give a question mark on that one. Add a deputy sheriff to judicial position. So they want to have an additional person as they open up the courts.
I put restricted on this one as well because this is, they say they'll need it pending the increase in cases because of the change in the county attorney's office. Until I see the change, I don't want to approve it.
So it's not only the county attorney's office, but it's actually getting the courts up to full speed.
Right.
Let me make sure I'm looking at the right one. The one I have down here is a request added 1 deputy sheriff to enforcement position UCAP to the staffing plan.
That was
the
the
one
one
that
we
I
were
said
just
restricted.
on.
That was the last
which
one.
you set a question mark on that one. This is the sheriff deputy 2 for a judicial support.
So I was off then because I was looking at the additional deputy for the SARS, the managing the air support unit.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
so we just finished doing item number 139.
139
Well, so
is
the
UCAP.
numbers don't match on my side.
Yeah, because he's got them
So-
down in that schedule down on the bottom.
So we can't, so we should not be adding a UCAP member in there when we're going to be adding that with the opioid funding.
Yeah, and
That
that's
should
why
be a no.
Well, that's why Amelia said, these two are saying restricted.
we were saying restricted because if there's an increase demand for it, then we have the latitude to go ahead and release the funds and have someone hired. But
So
for now-
I talked with them specifically about that, and they were fine with that being a no and adding the 2 funded ones.
I think I knew the opioid was funded. They were for that. They didn't say anything about no on these.
Yeah,
The UCAP? Because
on the
UCAP's
UCAP, the UCAP one, they said, if we get the opioid funding one, we don't need this one in the staffing plan.
Well, I didn't know that.
I think
because
they're confusing 2 issues because they didn't ask for a separate position under opioid. This is the position they asked for.
under general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and they asked
thought
for
they
that
used-
before the opioid funding
Correct.
came about.
Correct,
And
exactly.
so when I had a conversation with Yvette and with Sean Shipman about it, I said, you know what, if we add 2 on the opioid side, then what about this one that you have the ask? And he says, you can just cut it.
Exactly.
Well, then, if that's the case, I'll change my vote to.
Yeah, I thought when I talked to them, they said, well, we're going to need it eventually. And that's why I said, well,
eventually.
restricted.
Yeah, well, eventually you get 2 coming on.
That would be in 248.
Well, the
I
other
guess.
thing, the other question I ask is, I still think we have too much money I think they're planning on too much money in the opioid.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the state has to spend their money somewhere.
Well, I agree. And
And
if
if
the
they come
state
to
spends
us-
it, like, that's what I mean. I put this in restricted because if we can't fund it in opioid, I want us to have budget here to fund it if we need it. But if the state funds it, then we can take this out. Then we can put this back into the
Wouldn't
general fund.
duplicate it.
Does that make sense? So for me, I was hedging my bets between the state coming in because I think we're spending too much in opioid. I think we're overspending it right now.
Because what I told Chipman was, we have to look at the curve of demand.
We won't overspend the first year.
Right. I'm worried about like the next year.
That could be a discussion next
So
year. for
maybe it
budget.
should be, for me at least, a no on this one for this year coming, and then we address it for
Yeah.
24.
That would make sense if you want to do that.
So no on the UCAP?
Yeah.
Okay, for both of you?
I know I leave mine restricted.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
All right. The next one is the judicial checkpoint position, adding to the staffing plan.
The 4th District Court.
Yeah,
I put
See that one,
restricted.
Bill?
Same thing. If the court cases go up, I'm fine giving it to them.
So restrict that one.
I'm a maybe on that one.
okay, we'll give you a question mark, okay. The
You
rec
on that
team
one?
sergeant,
I'm a restricted on that one.
on which one?
Patrol, number 140.
Okay, yeah, on the judicial position.
Yeah,
I
okay.
got it restricted for you.
Yeah.
Restricted, and question mark, so we're good, okay? All
Next
right,
one is,
rec team sergeant.
I'm a no.
I'm a no.
And this is number 150.
isn't this the one they wanted to have someone stationed on one end of the county so they can support both ends of the county?
Yeah, they wanted a next one because right now they only have one rec team sergeant. And so if they're, one, you got to give them vacation time once in a while. But if you have somebody in one part of the county, not in the other part, then they
Yeah,
can't
because it
react to
takes
both.
40 minutes to get from one end to the other.
Yeah, so,
So I'm a yes on that one.
okay.
Oh, sorry. I was a yes on 150 and no on 151.
Okay. So yes on 150 and no on 151.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it? It's 151.
151 is the rec team deputy to go
It's just
along with the
it's a
sergeant.
deputy
It's
for
a
the
ne-
rec team rather than a sergeant. So the rec team asked for 2.
And I can see it. I can see why they need the sergeant and the deputy. That way they can alternate tours there. So I'm a yes on the deputy.
I'm a no on that one.
Okay. Oops. Number 173, fire captain for wildland fire in county.
I said yes.
So this one has multiples.
Yep.
Yeah, there's
Correct.
So I'm a yes on one fire captain.
So
And
173
this
had a
is the
yes
one
and
where we had a
yes for-
duplication erroneously. So I think we have two.
And I was the same, a yes and a no.
I'm a yes on one fire captain,
fire
and I'm a
captain.
yes on one lieutenant.
And
Okay.
what I wanted to ask Patrick while he's here, which is more critical, the in-county or out-county? Can they be interchangeably assigned?
They can. I would say that, again, it's like picking your favorite child. Do them both, in county and the resource program. Again, my overall plan here is to be able to switch these individuals back and forth, because again, I can keep one at home to make sure the home front's taken care of, and I can send one out to help them take care of them.
And the captain is in charge of the truck, its maintenance, the mission, and the lieutenant oversees the fire team that's addressing the fire.
Now we're talking here about the in-county right now on this particular one in county,
Yes.
not the ones that are going all over the country, right?
Yeah, there's a different line item for those ones.
Right. And so what I was curious as to what's most crucial of all of these between in-county or out-county, which is most crucial to? In-county? Okay.
Now, keep in mind though, that the out of county are grant funded.
Yes, they are. What he's concerned about is he's wearing out his people, and that's what he's been driven by here.
So I had a yes and a no, just like Commissioner.
So then,
On the lieutenant, so
I'm a yes on the lieutenant because you need a captain and a lieutenant.
so I eliminated number 174 because that's a duplicate.
Okay, so that was, I was a yes on 173 and no on 174, but you
Yeah, and
eliminated
so
that.
then
So tell me what they are. Don't give me the numbers.
174 is that duplicate fire captain. When I said there were two of them in there. And so then we go down to these other ones. There's another fire captain, and then there's a lieutenant.
Yeah,
that they're asking for,
I'm a yes on the first fire captain, and I'm a yes on the first fire lieutenant.
but not on the second fire captain.
No,
I was
correct.
the same.
Okay, Commissioner Lee,
I was a no on those.
on both of them? Okay.
No, on the grant funded one, I was a yes on all 3.
Yeah, we're not there yet. We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay. So that's all for the general fund right there.
So, hold on, yeah, you're getting caught up. No worries. I think we had a yes, a no, yep. And then go down to the next wildland. So the line 23, yeah. So I think we had no's and yeses.
229, I'm a a no, because I was a yes for
What's
the
the- no,
173.
Don't say the numbers because I'm not following numbers. You have to tell me where
There's-
you're at.
Yeah, that's
Mine,
correct.
mine isn't the official one anyway. So
Yeah.
Don't worry so much about mine. He's got the official.
I'm trying to keep the
You're
right
doing good.
scorecard here.
There was
You're
3
doing
fire
good.
captains. This
You're
one's
doing
a
Yeah,
awesome.
so there's
duplicate,
3 fire
two
captains. So
captains and a
one,
lieutenant.
the first, so what we're including is 1 fire captain and 1 fire lieutenant, and not 2 of either one. So we got
In county.
clean those up.
Yep.
Okay.
We're giving 1 of each in
Yeah.
county. Yep. Okay.
So if my math is correct, well, we're reducing about $510,000
Yeah, you're doing
from the total for general fund.
Yep.
Okay. So in health department, let's move to that one.
Okay.
Trying to move it along because I know you've got to get out of here and some others do too. So we have they requested a sanitation bureau director.
I said no.
Okay.
I have that one as a maybe for discussion.
Okay. And Commissioner Sakovic?
I was a yes on that because it's what they're trying to do is address inspections that have been falling behind.
Yeah, I would like us to work with our cities. Instead of funding full-time positions as sanitation coordinators, I would rather we work with the cities to try to move them to off of septic systems onto sewers.
Yes, it's still going to take some years though.
It shouldn't have to take that. I mean, some of them shouldn't have to take that long. Like Eagle Mountain right now they've got like 1,000 homes that they want to permit on a septic in city limits. Like we should work with them and say, let's work with you to get grants and maybe see if they need some sort of a loan and get their sewer line out to those. We should not be having full subdivision. I'm totally fine if there's like a house in the middle of nowhere that's on a septic, but it is ridiculous for us to be putting subdivisions on septics.
Nola, Goshen.
Right.
Santaquin's off, of course.
Right, Santaquin's off, but we need to work with them, and rather than building up all of our people to inspect septics, I would, for example, we had 1 person here. I would rather take 5 years of their salary, pay it up front as a grant to a city, and say get on a septic and get on a sewer. You know what I mean? Because for the long-term view of our county, 50 years from now, those homes are going to need to be on a sewer. And it is way harder to put a home on a sewer that's already on a septic than it is to build it on a sewer. I think it would be better off for us to work with either giving them a loan or finding a grant or doing a matching grant program and get them on to sewer systems instead of increasing the number of people we have inspecting septics.
Can we put a year limit on this, a 20-year window?
On a position? No.
Finding future commissions.
No.
So I'm going to move to a no on that one.
Okay, so you're going to go with a no, and Amelia's with a no, and Tom.
I recognize something needs to happen, but I think we need to work with them on that.
Yeah, I see the immediacy of what we have.
I could just say one thing. They do more than just inspect septic systems. They do hazmat.
They do hazmat and other things. Right now, Jason Garrett, our division director, is hoping that we can specialize some of our folks so that they can work more effectively than being generalists, where they're doing pools, schools, wastewater. We'd like to have them be used much more efficiently doing specialization.
Yeah,
and so that's the and helping the cities with those houses that we can't help right now because we don't have the staffing like the Provo home that we discussed a while back. But I see your point. I like the idea that Commissioner Gardner has, but I would just make the point that they're just understaffed right now doing the things we're hoping they can do and need to be doing. We're estimating at 60%, and we can help efficiencies by specialization. And so we want a sanitation bureau along with a water quality, air.
Well, and I think that after we
food.
go through and we look at the overall costs and maybe if we adjust fees, then I might be willing to early next year. So this isn't like a no forever,
Yeah.
but this is based on the current budget. I want to see what the actual cost of this division is once we fix the accounting and do actual cost accounting. And then if we need to adjust fees so that they pay for these positions, then I could see us doing that early next year.
And for clarity, Eric, they might, instead of Sanitation Bureau Director, maybe it should be Sanitation and Environmental Health Bureau Director, because it's multiple
Different title.
roles that that person's playing.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay, thanks, guys.
No, given what you just said there, let's look at that next year. Let's go ahead and make mine a no.
Okay.
But put a note off to the side. Let's readdress for 2024.
All right, the next one is upgrading a half-time immunization public health nurse to full-time.
Yeah, for American Fort Clinic. I said yes on 276.
This is 276, yes.
Yep, I said yes to 276 and 277.
I'm a yes at the upgrade for the halftime immunization, if that's 276.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 276.
276, yes.
Yes.
And then we have the same thing with the American Fort Clinic.
Yeah, one here, one there. So
Yeah,
276,
it's growing up.
I'm a yes on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Then the next one is number 278, upgrading time-limited office specialist to full-time office in the Welcome Baby program.
Yeah, I said yes.
I'm a yes on that one.
Yes.
All right. Number 288, increasing is this
halftime
this
office
is adding a halftime office specialist for nursing admin.
I said no.
Is that person in American Fork or here in the main?
What's
health
the
department?
dollar? What's the dollar amount on that one? So I can find it.
45,494.
40,000, yeah, 45,494, and I believe that's here in Provo, right?
That is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said no.
I don't see that one on here.
It's in health promotion, health nursing. My line, skip down the line. 45,490 would be the total, or 45,500. I should have rounded it up, but.
Okay, yeah, I found it. I'm a no on that one.
Okay.
No.
And Tom, you were no also?
No.
Okay. Then there's a couple of staff promotions for people within the department.
I'm a yes on all of those.
I was a yes on all of those as well.
Yep.
6 through.
Those are like numbers 291, 292, 93, 94, 95.
Yep.
Yep.
I was a yes on all
And
those.
you're okay with all those, Commissioner Lee?
Yes.
Okay. We'll move down. So then those are the ones that were included in the tentative budget for health. Now we're moving down to some other ones in here that were not included in the tentative. So we have a request in environmental health for this is number 303, sanitation program manager.
I put no, no, and no for the next three.
No for the next
303,
three.
304, and 305.
I was comparing these additional asks to what the list already provides, and we had some vacancies, and I was concerned that if we approved these other
That's
two,
why I did as
environmental
well.
health, that we might not fill them. But
I
we
figured
had-
if those
I-
vacancies pull up,
Yeah,
then if you
'Cause-
fill the vacancies, come back and ask mid-year.
yeah, because I think you have, what, 3 vacancies, Eric?
Bill, can I steal your other water? I got a
Yeah.
tickle in my throat.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Difficulty hiring right now.
Yeah.
Right.
So-
And so I figure if you fill those and then you have more that you need, then come back.
Commissioner Lee,
No on that one.
no on all of them.
Yeah.
You're talking about the other ones being environmental health ones? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
Correct.
talking about?
sanitation program
Environmental
manager and
health.
2
I was a
environmental
no on all
health.
3 of those.
Yep,
As
same.
am I.
All right. Now we move on to the epidemiology bureau director
Wait, didn't we
for
have
number
promotion?
306.
Oh, 306, yeah.
Go ahead, Lee.
I put restricted.
Okay.
Basically, restricted means that I think that we'll probably need it before the end of the year, but I don't think we need it right away in January.
Yeah, and the question I have is, as we talked to Eric last night, is that we have all these other agencies that are available to provide research, but you were telling me that these roles would then be multitasked to other things such as nursing, to immunizations, other areas that are going to be multiple hatted. Is that correct?
For example, they helped us with monkeypox. They ran a clinic. They did the shots, these nurses did, and they did the surveillance, and they worked with the high-risk community. We can also pull them in other.
We can also pull them in other roles too, like you're saying, like when we have the hepatitis A outbreak with the restaurants and other things like
So
that.
what I did is I put the promotion one is restricted if we needed it, and then the nursing one, I put no on one, yes on one, and no on one.
So so you're saying with number 306,
306, I put
Which is what,
restricted.
which one?
which
It's-
is the Epidemiology Bureau Director.
Okay.
Permanent position, I put restricted as, so basically if we need it before the end of the year, we'd have the money set aside.
We currently have a bureau director serving that capacity.
So you would need a second bureau director?
No, it would just be making that position
permanent. So you
secure.
have that
Yeah,
person.
we have that person.
Okay, then I'll put that as a
critical,
yes.
One of our lead individuals. I fear we would lose.
Gotcha. That makes
Okay.
sense. I didn't know you had somebody in that position right now. Okay, so then I'll change that to a yes.
I had that
And
one as a
then-
yes.
And then for 307, which is the full-time rabies, lead, COVID, and TB, I put no. Only because
I had that one as a maybe.
And again, if I'm not mistaken, I talked to a couple of members of the Health Bureau, and they were worried that we're getting into area that's already providing services that already exist. But you're doing this because they support the overall mission of the health department, which is to not only provide services to those who can't get access to it, either they're uninsured, broke, or don't want to be known that they need it, and secondly, they exist to help other departments in their functions to identify the diseases.
Correct. The epidemiologists or the disease detectives, they find and control the spread of disease. And
do we have a lot of rabies outbreaks?
No, but
Okay,
we have had one
wondering.
death recently.
And that's like, I kind of went specifically. For
Rabies?
example, I put, because it says this one of them was for rabies,
But
lead, COVID, and TB.
What's scary though is if you have a child pick up a bat, and that child gets rabies and doesn't get and we don't tell them to get the shots, there is a 0 chance of survival for that child because rabies is 100% fatal. And so once we find out there's an exposure, the epidemiologist goes through the questions with the contact, and then they determine whether or not they need the rabies series of vaccinations. So these are the types of things, even though they're not very common, they're scary diseases. We control them very well. And it's because we have epidemiologists doing this. They prevent sexually transmitted illnesses from being passed on to newborn babies, for example. And so we have to control. Right now we're seeing an increase in gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, and HIV in our community. And we need our STI folks as well as the EPIs working together to, the STI folk are EPIs to prevent the spread of that. That's just another example. They make referrals. We don't do the treatment for all of these things unless it's not provided by the private sector. Then there's nowhere else for people to go. And for the low income and the low SES and others, we provide those services, but we're not trying to be the doctor's offices.
Okay, so
we're not trying to be physicians.
But between these two positions, he's a nurse supervisor, full-time for specific fields, and a nurse 2 full-time also for specific areas. So they're going to be pigeonholed, so to speak, into only certain fields or certain specialties.
Yeah, HAI stands for hospital-acquired infections. So these are infections that babies could get in the hospital or other things like that. We help monitor that at hospitals as well as assisted living centers, specialty care centers. Does that make sense? Nobody does that work but us.
So the hospitals don't do their own internal hospital acquired?
They have infection control, but we help with, they report to us those infectious diseases that they get, and then we help monitor it to make sure it doesn't go out into the community. Or it's not just hospitals, it's health acquired, is a better word, but they call it hospital acquired. But it would be like an assisted living center where you have individuals with immune systems where the vaccine doesn't work. So we need to prevent the spread of infectious disease within that facility. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah. So
that's the difference between the HAI and then the other ones. I think make sense. The other respiratory illnesses, zoonotic disease, lead, things like that.
So you're asking for 3 for Epidemiology Bureau Director, a public nurse supervisor, health nurse supervisor, public health nurse 2, and then also full-time clinical assistant for this area here.
These are what Lori has identified as her needs.
So they'd be working in tandem with hospitals, with clinics that already exists there.
That's what epidemiologists do. And they work with the state health department, and they work with other professionals, partners. Public health is a tiny piece of the overall. We don't pretend to be we work with doctors' offices, and there are reportable diseases that all doctors' offices have to report to the health department so that we can do our investigative work. That's what these folks do.
How many nurses do you have for rabies, lead, COVID, and TB?
I don't, for rabies.
Just because this is a supervisor. This is an additional supervisor for rabies, lead, COVID, and TB.
Over that program, these are servant leaders though. They're not just managing, they're also doing the disease investigation as well. So this isn't a model where they would just supervise other nurses. They would be supervising other nurses as a specialist, but they would still also be doing the epi work. That's how much work we have to do. We don't have a model where we can have someone simply manage other people. They do the work plus they manage, if that makes sense, Commissioner Gardner.
Yeah, well, and most frontline supervisors do that anyway.
Yes, and that's the county model. We do that across the board.
So Eric, if one of the epidemiologists, public health nurse was hired, and you only got one, could they do both jobs?
We'll take what we can get. She put down what she feels she needs, Lori Barber, but we would be, if she were here, she would say she would need both. But if one,
because of the specialty,
what we could do is we could take one and see how that goes, and then if more like mid-year or next year, ask for the next one, if that would be a more thoughtful approach about it.
Okay, because for me, I'm a yes on the first one for the nurse supervisor, maybe a restriction on the nurse 2 full-time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could compromise that because I had a yes on the second one, but I could change the yes to the first one.
Which would be more important if you...
Probably the supervisor.
Yeah, I would agree.
So for me, I'm a yes on the
I could flip those.
307.
Yeah, that works.
Nurse supervisor, and I'm a restricted for the nurse 2.
And if a need can be demonstrated mid-year,
yeah,
then we can come back and demonstrate that to the commission. Okay.
Yep. And on the clinical assistant for the STI and TB clinic, I said no. I think that we've got enough free clinics right now in the county that just adding that many more positions.
Well, that last one, Rudy, I was the same, a yes but I was actually a yes and a no. But
Okay, so
it's fine to go
let
restricted.
me be clear. All 3 of you voted yes on the health promotions, the director. On the epidemiology public health nurse, you said
nurse supervisor.
The nurse supervisor.
Yes.
Amelia's yes. Tom's a yes. Bill's a yes. Okay. On the epidemiology nurse 2 full-time specialist, is that where we're all going restricted?
I was a no on that one.
You were no.
No, it was a no.
Okay. And restricted.
And then I was a no on that.
All right, and then the full-time clinical assistant for STIs, TB, and so forth.
How many clinics do we have in county?
I said no.
You're no.
Yep.
I'm a yes on that one.
You're a yes on that one, Bill?
How many clinics do we have in town that can address STI?
At least 4 that are free.
We have, there's like, we have a federally qualified one in Mountain Lands, and they surely provide service. And
Are they located up in Lehigh area?
Down here in Provo.
All here,
Provo.
so they'd have to go from, okay.
But we also have, our area is right here in downtown Provo where we do our services. They're not at our American Fork or at our, we don't have enough folks to do that at our other locations.
Because I'm a yes on that one, because I'm considering the growth of the population also brings this disease as well.
So that's on 309, you're a yes.
I'm a yes.
Okay, and Amelia's no, and Bill's a yes. Okay, then on the health promotion, full-time office support person.
Wait.
Number 311,
okay.
that's
76,000.
76,414.
76,000 and change.
When you say health promotion, what is that defined as again?
So that's the division where they do tobacco prevention and control, and they do injury prevention, child passenger safety, car seat checks for parents in the
And the
car.
office support defined as?
Is clerical and doing all of the work so that our higher paid health educators aren't doing that clerical work.
So we don't have
health
anybody in there
promotion?
right now?
We have
I said no.
we have two actually, but
You have two?
we
Grade
have
11?
we have
Yeah, it was
two
no.
office specialists right now that are working in health promotion.
Did you say no, Amelia?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I were to say restricted on this, how overworked are the two that you have?
Of all of the divisions, this would be the one where it's I think they would be okay next year in comparison to EH and nursing, and so.
So I'll just say no then. We'll push this off to 24 then.
And bring it up in future years as we do. an
Yes.
I was a
assessment.
maybe / leaning yes, so just put maybe on mine.
Okay, so Commissioner Lee, maybe. Okay.
Okay.
That's all those, the health department. Grantland, here's we're getting into the wildland fire, the grant funded portion of it, that's the out of county.
I was a yes, and a yes.
So where's the grant funding coming from?
A lot of it's coming, it's actually coming from federal grants when they're going out on federal, on interstate fires and things like that, or they're coming from states, or they're coming from other, that's generally where they're coming from. Any other source on that, Patrick?
We do
That's
have
really
that-
what it is.
That $2.4 million.
I mean,
grant.
when they have a federal disaster and all of a sudden you got the federal FEMA money coming in, it comes from all of those different sources and state funding and whatever.
So on usually when I'm used to grant funding, it's grant funded for a specific time. There's a duration. Or is this grant funded in the sense that there's going to be fires out there, and so that money comes this direction and we put them on it?
Yeah.
So if we don't assign them, then
We don't get money.
there's no
Correct.
grant
Then
funding.
there's no funding
Correct.
in that fund. Then that fund
Correct.
dries up and they get riffed.
Now, there's also some money.
So during the winter
local-
time, then
You got Forest
there's-
Service stuff too.
so during the winter, there's no funding.
No, there's fund in the account. There's money in the account.
So it's
So that, for instance, right now, it's winter time, it's coming up winter time. They could be in California and fighting a major blaze, and so there would be state and federal money available for that as well.
Northern Arizona fires.
Same
I'm just
thing.
wondering why we're calling this grant funded, because it's always been, grant funded has a certain stigma to it, meaning that
Yeah,
that's
well-
usually there's a certain amount of dollars that are attached to it. In this case, it's not really grant because we don't have a certain
We
amount
don't
that's
have,
attached
we
to it.
don't have a
We
dedicated ongoing source of
Right.
it. It's but case by case. There's some,
It's-
there's no.
It'd be like our health department. They have grant funds that come in and the demand
Those are a
on
little bit, those are different.
yes, they are. But
Yeah.
the fact that the demand ebbs and flows.
And anything that comes from federal sources or state sources is a grant, other governments.
And so we hire that out already. If there's a fire outside of the state of Utah, we can take fire crews from here or whatever and take them out and support Idaho or California.
That's correct, Commissioner. I think that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
This is the same thing. I think you're talking about the same thing.
I know, but we don't hire full-time people for those positions.
Yeah, we do. We have some right now.
Then why do we put them? Why do we defer them? And we pay, their unemployment costs.
Well, they're not all. Not everybody is a merit employee. I mean, this year I had 86 employees. So you have to have the management to oversee them when they go out on fires. And that's where this comes in and what Rudy's talking about.
He's been losing management.
Yeah.
Now it's true that some of the time limited employees have served in these capacities. Is that correct?
Yes, I have some called the variable selects in this that do serve in this capacity, but most of the time at most departments, the people that are overseeing the resources, the hand crews, what whoever it will be is a merit employee because of what they have to take care of and do while they're either at home or on the road.
Yeah. Well, I'm a no on it. I don't mind following the same process and plan that we've been doing in the past, but not changing this and calling it grant funded when it's
not an ongoing grant, it's
Right.
a as-needed grant.
yeah.
Yeah,
But we're paying them ongoing. So
yeah. All right.
So this is a mixed bag of financing, which is the one I'm
So
picking
we
up
have
on this?
one group, the ones we talked about earlier, they're paid within their county
General
stuff.
fund.
They handle stuff around here. These are ones that are out, that are basically fighting external fires out of county. And we
And
have
when we need
various
them in
sources.
county, we deploy them in county.
Yeah.
But
Let me jump in there, like Pole Bald, Coal Hollow, the quote unquote funded firefighters were on that fire. So I think we really get confused when we talk about in county and out of county. And
Yeah.
that's why I've changed it to resource, because you can have a resource order right here in Utah County. We have them all year long. So, and Commissioner, I have to agree, when you talk about the grant, it's been a 248, the grant program, as long as I've almost worked here. So that hasn't changed at all. It's been in the 248 account for the last 15 plus years, from my understanding.
yeah, and
we've expected those to pay for themselves.
they
Pay
have.
for their equipment, and then on top of that, supply some money to the in-county. That's always the goal with it, is that it's a self-sustaining unit that then is a benefit to the county. Otherwise, it's more of a liability than a benefit to the county.
Right, and it has been.
So, well, yeah, it can be.
Well, we did an
So-
audit of it, and it showed that it has been self-sustaining at least for the last decade.
When did the audit?
When I was the auditor, I remember giving it to you. It's posted on the website. It may
We've
not
gone
be
into a
posted
public
yet.
meeting
but-
probably, right? Audits usually go into public meetings anyway, so I'm just concerned that we're stretching it and calling it a grant funded position, which usually we're very typical in saying okay to. Because we know that the grant has a definite period of time and resources that are being put into it. In this case, we don't really know.
Yeah, and we would be hiring full-time people
Yeah.
that would be called out.
And I look at if it's grant funded, if Fund 248 runs out of money, then they get riffed.
Yeah.
You good with that logic, Patrick?
I'm sorry, which one?
Grant, as long as the grant funds
It's-
are there, the positions remain.
Yeah.
The grants dry
If
up.
248 dries up and we're not making money off of them, then we'll have to riff them.
And I would say, I mean, that's a bigger discussion in the future. If you look at my numbers right now, we've passed what we've borrowed, used every year. We've given back $1.8 million.
Right.
plus.
So there's, yeah.
So again, when we say, oh, this could be an off year and we're off by $20,000, we'll say in 2021, we're not just saying we're going to get rid of all of these positions, because
No.
we've already given back $1.8 million over the last 10 years before.
Right. We
So
would look
that's
at
a
it.
lot,
We would
yeah.
look at it
I would just
holistically.
ask we
So
look at
this
that.
is a genuine grant. This is not a mixing of funds then, right?
There's a grants from multiple sources.
Right.
Right?
Right, exactly.
And
but-
I'm a purist from the accounting side, because I've had to deal with these grants in particular over the last 15 years of my career. And technically they're grants when they come from federal sources, but it's not like health department grants where they say, well, we're going to have a 3-year grant. We're going to give you $150,000, right? It's different. It's actually payment for services.
Right. So if we approve these, then that they draw the grants to us to address the fires.
Yeah, when they go out on a fire, then we get grant money coming.
So these
in to
won't be
cover them.
hired actually.
No,
until we
these
get
would
the
be
grant.
hired. These would be hired. These would be full-time people that would be running the fire crews that are going out on these out-of-county fires, and also managing the program for the out-of-county, which would include, I assume, some of the billing and the directing and all those things that are associated with that.
So clear it, make sure I'm getting this. So the grants go back to us and back to our general fund. That's used to offset the costs
Well, the grant goes directly into this.
Into this fund.
This fund, and if there's excess, then it comes back into the general fund.
Okay.
See, if you call it a grant, it's interesting. It's actually a service for a fee.
Yeah, you could
And
call
that
it fee for
service for a
service.
fee comes back in. So there's work that's done out of county.
Correct.
And then they pay us to go out of county and fight fires. And so that money comes back to the county. And so all I'm saying is that.
Yeah, we just don't
it's-
have like a line item for that type of employee.
I know. And so we're calling it a grant, but it's not typical of the grant. It's a service for fee.
Maybe we better
coming back.
change that and help make it easier.
Well, they are
Yeah, that
grants
would make
because
more
I'm
sense.
a purist on that side, because that's what anything coming from the federal or state is a grant to us.
This is a misnomer. We
Yeah.
should not use the term grant. In fact, the fund is not called grant. It's called
Yeah.
outside projects.
Yeah, and-
Outside funding.
So
Meaning
this is
outside
fee
the
for
general
service.
fund.
It's like buying a fire app. You have to buy a fire apparatus that we're
Well,
going
I'm
to
gonna
use.
We're talking
type.
about
I'm
the
gonna
sheriff's
cross out
department in the way
grant
of
fund, and I'm
security
gonna say
stuff
outside
in which
projects.
they, you know,
But it
where
pays for
somebody
itself.
pays us
Right.
to have
Right.
a
It's a
cop
fee for
come,
service.
and we're calling that a grant.
This is a fee for
It's
service.
not a grant.
This
Right.
is a fee for service.
correct.
And we'll call it that.
Fix the title.
It's like having a Navy SEAL firefighting team here in Utah County. And one year, we might need 100% of that Navy SEAL team to fight fires all year long.
Yep.
But maybe 9 other years, we only need them 10% of the time.
Yeah.
So then what happens? You disband them.
No.
You don't train them. You don't invest in them. But
they
what
get-
we could do is we can ship them out and they can go fight fires,
Yeah.
50, 70, 80% of the time, hone their skills, be equipped, be ready to go. And then when we have a fire or when a neighboring county has a fire, I mean, it's kind of like an insurance pool in a way. We
Yeah, it
participate in a sense in a regional fire insurance program.
But I do agree that like auditing it every 3 to 5 years to ensure that like there's
idea.
a balance there is a good idea.
Absolutely. So,
So I'm a yes on it. I
On
see
all
the
three
value.
of them?
I see the
Yeah.
value.
okay. All right.
Okay. CJC.
And sorry for being a purist and confusing everybody with the terminology because I know I'm usually on the back end of it where I'm
we are
receiving
not
and accounting
government
for it.
accountants.
Sorry.
And we use the 248 fund for a variety of these types of outside projects, whether that's fee for service model, like you're talking about,
Yeah.
Commissioner, or it could be a state reimbursement program. It could simply be a grant. It could be a state appropriation. It could be the federal government says, when you do this thing, if you tell us about it and send our receipts, we'll give you money for it. There's a variety of ways that happens, and we might colloquially use grant,
Okay.
but it's
Change it from
non-general
that
fund.
to
The other thing that I wanted to make clear on this, at least from my perspective, is that this idea of building up the funds is really a dangerous idea because the building up of funds, if let's say you're out there all the time and you're just bringing money in at one period of time, and then you have years down the road in which you don't, those monies are usually gobbled up and gone. And so there's no real building up of funds. It needs to be self-sustaining year after year,
Yeah.
not accumulating over a period of time.
Yeah, but there may be a couple of down years, and that's okay. I mean, you kind of work through those, but yes. I
It's
agree.
like the TTAB board. We always keep a year's worth of tourism tax off to the side.
Outnumber the downs.
Yeah.
And
All right.
maybe we need to create a line just for this very thing.
But
Yeah,
not in
and that's fine. That's why we have it in there. All right, let's move on. So we
Robin
got
Hood.
our vote on those. Let's move on to
The animated Robin
The
Hood.
CJC wants to have a forensic interview technician, somebody that's going to be, these are the first line people that are interviewing the families and children when they come into the
Yeah,
program.
they've had a large increase, and so I'm a yes on that one.
I'm a yes on that one.
And I mean,
Okay, CJC, yep, I'm a yes.
Children's Justice Center.
Yep, on the
All right.
assessors, I'm a yes all the way down.
all right, and then,
48, 249.
Our assessors, and what about the trail
349,
super-
350, 370, and 370.
what about the trail specialist and trail supervisor that I
I was a
missed?
yes on both of those.
So I am not. Let me get to
Where
my.
is this?
It's not, that's the ones I
one's not
missed
on
off
here,
of the
he's
list.
confusing you.
There-
Right.
It's item 345 and 346 on the other schedule. And this is what right now they have one person managing trails and parks. And they're looking, because of
wanna
the
split
public
it.
needs, they're looking to add a new supervisor for trails and staff to deal with that specifically so that they can
Yeah, I talked to Richard about that, and I can support that.
All right, Commission, so you support that? And
I did too. Bill said no.
Bill
Well,
said
hang
no.
on, I'm trying to find that because you guys are bouncing.
That's the one, it's the trail supervisor. It might have said park supervisor.
Oh, yeah, that was one that said parks.
Park maintenance supervisor.
Correct, that's the
which
one.
we have a park maintenance supervisor with no one underneath except for time limited people, because we already have one with Mike Tanner, who's a park maintenance supervisor.
Correct, and they want to split it off so they have one person that's doing parks. They want to have a parks team and a trails team. And that's what they're trying to do, is add a corresponding person to handle the trails.
As a supervisor.
They want a supervisor
Dare I
and
say,
a
is this
maintenance
grant funded?
specialist.
Just kidding, it's not. It's TRCC funded.
It's
But I
TRCC
wanted to
money.
make the joke that it was
Yeah.
grant funded.
It's not, yeah.
I mean, because if we say grant
Not funny.
funded, then
This
a
is
lot of
te-
us say, "Oh yeah, if it's grant funded,
This is
go
TRCC
This is
funded.
TRCC funding.
This is TRCC funded.
This one with TRCC, they actually have to come before the TRCC tab board
T-tab.
to
Yeah.
make the presentation.
So maybe we say, I will tentatively say yes, assuming that the TTAB board approves it.
And when does the T-tab meet?
December 5th is when the next one is, but I don't know if this is on the agenda. The next one after that, I think, is not till March.
I mean, we could well, they're not going to be doing work on the trails until March anyways, but,
Yeah.
so, I mean, we could approve the position tentatively.
February. The next one is in February.
February.
So we
Yeah.
could tentatively say yes, assuming it gets approved in February.
So I'm a no
wanna
on
put-
both of these.
Okay,
We're going down in parks. We went down with the one over in Lehigh. Now that Lehigh manages that one.
That one,
The equestrian park is going to be moved to the maintenance and everything with Lehigh, American Fork, and Highland. We're going down in parks that way. So for both of these, I'm a no.
so did you want to put this as a restricted item, Commissioner Gardner?
Yes.
So that once we get a tentative we can have tentative approval in there. If the T-tab approves it, then we could add it in. Commissioner Sakovic?
If we're going down, I'm familiar with what's that one called in Lehigh? Willow Park. Willow Park. Took them a few years for the city to actually do something with it because it was dying a couple of years ago.
Only two more pages.
And equestrian park, that's not yet finished, but that's moving. I don't see any of the movements on the other parks at this point. Do you know if there's efforts to have cities take those?
No.
I just know that the trails I've seen the MAG plans for trails. There's lots of trails planned. I get emails regularly, people frustrated about the Jordan River Trail that needs repaired, and up the canyon, the Provo River Trail, and the Bonneville Shoreline Trail, and
Which they haven't been the big focus of the
And
maintenance
talk
work.
with Tara McKee because she's got money for that stuff. You guys just need to go talk with her. Who's she? Tara McKee. She talked with all three of us. She's got
that's right.
money for that. She says she's got lots of money and she wants to invest it in Utah County for the trail stuff. And the thing about the Jordan River Trail that just drives me nuts is that you have the Jordan River Trail Commission up there that they are always trying to get us on board. And I said, find us some funding money. You guys want us to be a part of it, but then you don't even do anything to help. And we have Lehigh and Saratoga Springs are a part of it, as well as the Utah Lake Commission or Authority Board now. So
Commissioner Sakovic, are you yes, restricted, or no on those ones, you know?
Let me mull it. So let's put me as a maybe. This will be my first one.
Okay, put you as a maybe, got it. A and C, Chris is asking for a commercial appraiser for item 348, which is a commercial appraiser for $150,000 in the
yes on that one.
I'm a yes on all of those appraisers and treasurer.
Same.
Because they are hard pressed to keep good people already.
So for all of those, you guys are.
So I see the commercial appraiser, what's the next
The
one?
next one is the career ladder for staffing plan adjustments for 25,000. That's existing staff, moving them up in positions. And then the next one is a senior land analyst for $20,000. And I think what they were trying to do is make somebody a senior position rather than a regular land analyst.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get a full person for that.
Yeah, it was. It was just an increase.
Yes.
Are we all three yeses on those? Okay. And then we have staffing plan changes in the treasurer and Commissioner Gardner, you say yes.
Which one's the treasurer?
It's staffing plan change.
5960.
What this is really, it's moving one employee that's a .75 to a full-time.
Yeah.
Because during certain times of the year, she has to work full-time.
And if she's only 3/4 time, she can only work
They don't
30
have,
hours.
and that, well, they don't have the budget to pay it, so that's what this is all about.
Yep.
Commissioner Sakovic? Okay. All right, the last one, that was staffing plan changes. I'm sorry, this next one was the 3/4 time person. I read it wrong. This is 378, but it's the same thing. They want to increase, this is the increasing the .75 person. The other one was increasing some of the staff to positions because they've met the qualifications for a higher level.
Yeah.
And so,
And that, instead of budgeting purposes, should say increases for staff.
yeah, it just says staffing plan changes.
Yeah, it's
so.
$5,900. So
Yeah, $5,900.
and then the
I mean,
other
the
one is
budgeting
13,000.
purposes item.
And most likely, this one for the 3/4 position
It's less than
really is going to be
20,000.
significantly, it's probably half of that.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about a whole year supposed to, during tax season.
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
All right, building maintenance fund. This is one where they want to add 2 people. They want to add an electrician and they want to add a facilities maintenance specialist.
And
Numbers 388 and 389.
I talked to Richard and Glenn about this a week ago on both of those positions, and they're folks that are, who is it? Brady, that runs the facilities. He's an electrician, and they need someone else to do it beyond him doing it. But how many do they have in there now?
They already have 2. So
I put no because I want to see the increase in responsibilities. Like, I want to see, like, do you have more buildings you need to do maintenance? Do you have more upcoming maintenance that you need to do?
they have 2 electricians already underneath their maintenance supervisors. So they've already got 2 electricians now. And this one's an interesting one because they want to put it in line underneath Brady, which is the division manager, which I don't understand. So I'm a no on the electrician and on this new FMS Public Works Director. Or Public
Okay.
Director.
Commissioner?
I'm a no on those.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, information systems. They want to, number one, 397, they want to utilize their senior programs as supervisors. And so they want to upgrade those 3 positions to supervisor positions.
It's 147.
That's
that's
45. This is the 45,000.
So I have one down here is 147,000.
That's correct. That's adding a senior programmer to the staffing plan to lead the web page design duties.
And then there was another one to add.
And then
a
there's
senior
another one,
programmer.
147 for the
the
lead, the
UI, UX
user,
user
interface and the user experience duties. So they want
No on
to,
that
they
one.
want to,
I'm a no on that one and a yes on the senior programmer.
okay,
Okay, so 398, you were a yes. 399, you were a no.
correct.
Okay, so I was a no on 397, but then a yes on 398 and 399. And my reasoning for that is I do not think that the best use of a highly skilled senior programmer is to be doing people's performance evaluations. I think that a project manager would be more well fitted to the skills. I don't think just because you're a senior programmer doesn't mean that you are the best fit for a supervisor. No, it also doesn't mean you're not the best fit for a supervisor. But I just don't like the idea of carte blanche, giving people a title and making them supervisors, because I've known some awesome senior programmers that were crappy supervisors and vice versa.
That's because they have a different brain set.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so
No-
I don't
no
like the idea of
insult
just across the board
intended.
saying, you're a senior programmer, you're now a supervisor. Like, I think each team, they need to look at the skill set of the individuals.
And I've got family who are senior programmers.
I've
as
worked for senior
supervisors.
engineers that became supervisors before just because they were senior engineers, and it was sucky.
And for me, I'm a yes on all 3 of those.
Yes on all 3. Okay, Commissioner Lee, what was your opinion on the one for 45,000 the super
That was a
upgrade,
yes on was the one for 147,000, which is the add the senior programmer.
right?
You were no on the other two?
No on the other two.
The senior programmer for the web page or for the user interface?
The web page.
Okay, got it. All right, and then we have another one from IT where they want to offer a $5,000 annual stipend.
Real quick, Rudy, would you make a note on the webpage one to investigate the possibility of defraying that cost using tourism dollars? Something
Yeah,
we talked
On the
about.
website.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
a-
you
that's
The
are.
best,
Great
the best
idea.
website in Utah County is the Visit Utah County website,
Yeah.
which is paid for with
And that would go
TRCC funds.
that would go with Envision Utah's
Well,
approach.
if you're a potential visitor to Utah County, you're going to land on the Utah County government website.
That's good logic.
And there's not a lot of slick anything that's going to make you want to visit Utah County on our government website. But maybe there ought to be. Maybe our county government website ought to look like a visit the county website and click here for government stuff too.
Most of the time we get on the county website and it has a picture of all the people in the jail.
Yeah,
You could do that.
And quite frankly, the county website is very difficult to maneuver.
Yeah, so
great
just
tourism.
maybe investigate the
That's a great
possibility
idea.
of
It's like people with
defraying some
Walmart,
of the
but
cost
like-
of that with
that's
tourism
a good point.
dollars.
Please do that. And
It's
remind us,
possible,
and we'll
maybe.
bring that up in February.
Yeah, that's a great idea, but I mean, so the senior programmer, I think it's still the right thing to do, but we could defray some of it with using some of the TRCC money or whatever, right?
So until we get that approval, can we
Night.
have maybe
that's
3 months worth? Can we agree?
Yeah,
to
well,
that?
let's put
3,
it in
4
the
months?
budget, and
Yeah, we
what
put it
we're
in the
saying is
budget,
if
we
we
can
can get the
defer it later.
funding, we would cover the cost.
Yeah, we
Okay.
could defer it later.
right.
That's just an accounting thing.
Okay.
Hey, Ralph, how do you feel about offering $5,000 annual stipends for programmers and DevOps engineers to come into the office?
To work on site instead of at home.
have a problem with that, quite honestly.
Well, good, because I put no.
I'm
So
a
that
no.
makes me feel better.
No,
I'm going to go with my no.
I'm a no.
no.
Okay.
Okay,
I just
The whole point of having this building is for
be used, right?
work it, not only just be used, but there's a energy that comes from working together physically.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be paying people to come work here. I
Yeah,
mean, just-
it
just-
it
Well, we
hurt-
already do pay
to
people to
sit,
come work.
I
here.
know, but to sit in our seats and,
Government's reactions to COVID hurt-
extra.
did more to hurt our community than it helped.
I think we should pay less to people who work at home all the time. That's what I think. That didn't go over very well.
All
The
right,
fact that during UAC last week, you may not have heard this, but many potential employees see that as an 8% increase if they get to stay home.
uh-huh.
Time, travel.
Yeah, exactly.
gasoline usage.
And my son, who's a programmer, works for an IBM subsidiary in California. He says, I will not go to an office. I mean, he's a DevOps guy. He says, I will not take a job where I have to go to an office every day.
Yep.
And he's okay with that. He's okay with not getting more money to go into the office, right?
Yep. Okay.
Okay, next.
All right, next one is number 405. The auditor asking for a training ERP project manager. And this would be a person that would be working with the actual program manager for the actual project, but training the people on how to use this and getting them up to speed, and then working and training on other things as we move forward with that.
Could be part of the CIP, which is part of implementing that program. I
Yep.
would say, yeah, I said yes on this.
So I'm a no on that one.
Okay,
And enterprise resource,
that's the new finance system.
yeah, it is. And it's going to take a while to get that going.
A couple years.
Yeah, so I'm a no for now. Let's readdress it in about a year's time and see where we are. That is likely to be a multifaceted program, hitting many departments. And so I like to have some review that ahead of time.
Review it ahead of time or after the fact as we move
I want
forward?
to have more discussion on that.
As we move
maybe-
forward in the process,
Yeah, maybe in 24 or so.
okay? We discussed number 406 earlier, and this was adding the senior analyst.
How about the 402?
This is 402 is the one that that doesn't matter because that was actually we take this off because it's a duplicate of what we did in 22.
Yeah, I see the negative number, just
Yeah.
curious. Okay.
Yeah, so that goes away because that was just it was part what we did in 22.
Okay.
All right, the senior analyst to the staffing plan in the auditor's office. And this is what we talked about earlier in the discussion, that the plan was to have one senior analyst and one junior analyst, but
I said yes.
and if we did this, you could underfill it as a regular, just
Well, that's like we do with all of our career ladder positions, where when you have two different tranches, like a 1, a 2, a senior, junior, you could hire depending on qualifications at the junior level or senior level, or if somebody meets the qualifications, they can be advanced from the junior, from the 1 to the 2, junior to the senior. That's the concept here. It's not a different position. It's not a new position. It's just funding so that you have two levels of the position
for
that are
qualification.
possible.
Yeah, hire qualified people, and hopefully that's what we get when we recruit. But
Yeah, and
Well, and
we
also-
talked about that the first half of this meeting, so I'm a yes on that one.
Commissioner Lee, no, okay. Then
Comp balance.
HR is in number 456. HR is asking for a comp analyst.
I said yes.
I'm a yes on that. I've had long
Okay,
visits with HR on that.
and then the risk manager.
Yes.
I don't think any one of you want to say no on that
Oh,
one.
that's
It's something
definitely yes.
We definitely need here in the county. The other one that they have,
Let's finish up the voting here first. And
Yep.
I thought we all said yes on risk manager.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. The next one is the position, adding a position, which is the HR business partner position, where essentially they would be liaisons that would be assigned to different departments to work with them on HR matters, so that Ralph can do some other things.
I said yes.
No.
You're a no?
I'm a yes on that.
Okay.
I had a lot of discussions this past year on that. I could see the value of that.
Okay.
And the only reason why is because we have a position that's probably going to retire that I think can transfer into the future. It might be a year. But if we do it now, then now we're going to have two positions.
I talked to her, now she's at 5 years.
She's got 5 years?
Yeah, she's 5 years out, so.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
All right, that gets us through the list here. So let me go through this real quick, because the resolution was to approve the changes,
There's an ad.
and there's an ad. Okay,
So there's an ad in the clerk's office,
okay,
and that is to add back those two positions.
yes.
So I wanted to just make sure that they're added back. So we talked about deleting
The assistant election director.
but we didn't add back the two positions that were eliminated. So I want to make sure they're added back.
Yeah, I'll put them in. I don't know the exact names, and I don't know the dollar.
Voter outreach coordinator.
Okay.
And elections clerk.
Well, I'll have to get dollar amounts on those. So we can add those in. Are we all on board with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I voted to leave the positions as they were.
But if we are getting rid of the assistant director.
Yes, I would
then
add those
we're-
back in.
And Commissioner Lee, you're on favor with those, correct?
Oh, yes. I just want to make
All
sure.
right, anything else before I go through the list of what we said we're going to do here? All right, going down the list here, we have the election security position. We have 2 yeses and an R, so that means that goes. We have the 2 people positions we just discussed, voter outreach coordinator and elections clerk.
Mm-hmm.
We are all in favor, 3 yeses on the drone pilot. And then we have 2 yeses for the sheriff's additional record supervisor. The sheriff's training deputy, we have a yes, no, and a question mark. So that does not move forward at this point in time. Could next week. For corrections administration, administrative sergeant, we have 2 yeses and noes, so that would be approved. For corrections nurse compliance coordinator, we have 2 yeses and a no, so that would be approved. The UCAP sheriff's deputy 2 position is 2 noes and a restricted, so that would not be approved. The deputy sheriff 2 judicial position, the checkpoint, we have 2 restricteds and 1 question mark. So that would be approved, but as a restricted item. Okay. The rec team sergeant, we have 2 yeses and 1 no, so that would be approved. The rec team deputy, we have 2 noes and a yes, so that would not be approved. For the fire captain in county, we have 2 yeses. I didn't catch Commissioner Sakovich's vote on that one.
That was a yes.
You were a yes on that one, Tom?
Yes.
Okay. The next one is the duplicate, and we will remove that one. Then then we had a second fire captain in county, which was a no for all 3 of you. Fire lieutenant in county was
So it shows with a yes.
That's okay.
So for the wildland fire lieutenant, we have 3 yeses. So that one will move forward. That's the in county. Okay. That's not the grant funded. Well,
Correct.
Reimbursable.
Reimbursable, yeah, something like that.
Service for
Okay,
a
then
fee.
we're moving to the health department. So the sanitation bureau director has 3 noes that will not be approved. Upgrading the public health nurse position has 3 yeses, so that will be approved. Upgrading halftime immunization office specialist at American Fork Clinic has 3 yeses, gets approved. We have upgrading time-limited office specialist to full-time in the Welcome Baby program. That's 3 yeses. That is approved. The halftime office specialist for nursing admin, 3 noes. That is not approved. Then we have staff promotions for 5 people, and those all have yeses, and those are all approved.
Yes.
In the environmental health, the sanitation program manager is not approved. The EHS 2 positions are not approved, 3 noes on each one of those. The epidemiology bureau director permanent position is 3 yeses, is approved. Epidemiology public nurse supervisor full-time is 3 yeses and is approved. The epidemiology public health nurse 2 full-time, it has 2 restricted, so that will be approved with the money going into a restricted account that cannot be used until the commission votes otherwise. The full-time clinical assistant for STI and TB clinics has 2 yeses and 1 no. That is approved. The full-time office support person for health promotions has 2 noes and a maybe, so that is not approved. Wildland fire out of county.
Reimbursable.
Reimbursable. Full-time fire captain has 2 yeses and 1 no, so that is approved. The fire captain, there are 2 fire captains with 2 yeses and 1 no. So both of those are approved, as is the lieutenant with 2 yeses and 1 no. CJC, forensic interview technician, 3 yeses, that is approved. In the TRCC fund, we have the trails supervisor and specialist. We have a question mark, a restricted, and a no, so that will have to be addressed next week in the budget session, depending on what Commissioner Sakovich just comes up with on his side there. Moving to Fund 290, all 3 of you approved the commercial appraiser. All 3 of you approved the $25,000 career ladder staffing plan, and all 3 of you approved the $20,000 senior land analyst. All in the treasurer's office, all 3 of you approved both the staffing plan changes for promotions and the change for a 3/4 to 100% on 1 employee. All 3 approved that. In building maintenance fund, all three of you rejected the electrician position and the facilities maintenance specialist position. So those are not approved. In IT, two of you rejected using senior programmers as supervisors and upgrading three existing programmers to this position. That was not approved. All three of you approved adding a senior programmer to work on the web page with also the provision that we will also be looking at possibly offsetting our costs with tourism funds. And for the other programmer position, the 147 for a senior program for the user experience, 2 yeses and 1 no. So that is approved also. Adding $5,000 stipend was rejected by all three of you, so that will not be included. Into the auditor's office, the training ERP manager, project manager had 2 no's and a yes, so that is not approved. The senior analyst is approved by all three, so that will go. In HR, the comp analyst is approved by all three. And the risk manager is also approved by all three of you. HR, 2 of you approved the business partner, and so that will be approved.
No, I'll change that yes to me. Not that it makes any difference.
The business partner?
With that additional information,
Okay.
I was going no off of that information that I have.
Okay, so we have all three of them. That's the end of it. I will go and cost these out, and I will get the costing information to you tomorrow.
As long as you have it by the 30th, we're good.
Okay, I will have the total of what we're increasing or
If you want
decreasing.
to cook turkey
based upon
tomorrow,
this.
that's up to you, but I just need these by
I'll
the
be
30th.
working tomorrow, one way or another. And based upon this stuff, I have a master scorecard for next week for the budget, and I will bake these numbers into that.
Okay.
Along with my turkey.
Great.
Awesome.
Which will be on my
Can I have
Traeger smoking.
update a list on this too?
Yeah, I'll get an updated list for this and I'll send it out to you.
Okay.
We
Hopefully by
didn't. We
tomorrow.
didn't have it in there. The ad that we had, but you have that, right?
Which ad is that?
The one with in the clerk's office for those.
Adding those 2 positions? Yeah, that's on the list here.
Yeah, he added it on his list.
I just need to get.
Not this
I
one.
didn't see it. Okay.
I
Not
just
on
need
this
to
one,
put
he had
all
it on
the,
his.
I just need to put the details back in on the costing.
So I move to approve item number 42 as discussed extensively today, as reflected on Rudy's spreadsheet.
You sound like you're in a hurry.
Yeah, which is the master one. And if you have, and also understanding that if there's something you guys do not agree with that we screwed up, I went through it all, so I think we got it all right.
I think we're.
But we can talk about it next week.
I think it's good. So I second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 42 passes 3-0.
And I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We're working tomorrow, right?
I am,
Yeah.
I am.
I am.
but I don't know if I'll see you. I don't know if I'll see you all tomorrow.
We have a final motion.
Paul's out of here.
I'll
You
try to
got
stay
it
away
tonight.
from you guys tomorrow.
Oh, I
I'll move
forgot.
to adjourn.
Any public comment? Any online?
Anyone crazy enough to still be here? Okay,
Seeing none, we have a final motion.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
I will.
that.
I